Evies, get your team up here. Quickly, quickly. I see the sailors laughing and the Air Force veteran are laughing. I think I just brought them back to remembrance. Come on up, guys. Don't worry, I'm not going to bite. You can come over here. Okay, as you were. It's National Community Development Month. It is hereby proclaimed by the mayor of the city of Palm Bay, the greatest city on the face of the earth. Whereas United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, implemented the Community Development Block Grant Program in 1974 for the purpose of providing local governments with the financial resources to assist low and moderate income persons. And whereas the CDBG program has had a significant impact on our community through public services, infrastructures, improvements, parks and recreation, job creation and retention, and improved local tax bases. I'm going to pause here for a second. Deputy Mayor, come on down here. You sit on this board.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Come on down, Deputy Mayor. You're part of this team, and you devote a lot of time with them. So I didn't mean to give you an order, sir. I might have come out that way, but sir, it was not intended that way. Whereas the city of Palm Bay clearly demonstrated the capacity to administer and customize the CDBG program to identify, prioritize, and to improve and resolve pressing local issues. Whereas the National Community Development Association has announced the month of April as CDBG month to further highlight the work that occurs with CDBG dollars in communities nationwide. And we're really grateful for that. Whereas the city of Palm Bay has developed a partnership with HUD for the administration of a CDBG program and recognizes the efforts and maintaining reporting compliance and annual funding for our CDBG program. Now, therefore, I, Rob Medina, Mayor of the city of Palm Bay, by virtue of the authority of said office, do hereby recognize HUD as an outstanding partner within our CDBG program and do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as National Community Development Month in the city of Palm Bay and urge all our citizens to join in recognizing the CDBG program and the important role it plays in our community. In witness hereof, I set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Palm Bay to be affixed this 4th day of April 2024. Miss Eves, I don't know how you're going to work this out, sit down there, but you're going to have to come up here and speak. Thank you and congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
I got it. I got it.
So it is fitting to celebrate the CDBG's 50th year anniversary for the month of April with the dedicated housing team. In the last 2 to 3 years, the tremendous effort and dedication put forth by the housing team and the housing staff has proven it can be done. Although Nancy's not here, she helped provide a clear path for grant compliance with CDBG together with Sipi Galilo Chinyanganya, Elena Sarasua, Jenny Lawson, Carmen Journey, and I, and we were all determined to prove it can be done. It can be done, and the housing team looks forward to the 51st year anniversary next year. Thank you.
Okay, I think let's come on this side if we can. Okay. Deputy Mayor. Come on, no. You might want to go up and So our next proclamation, I'm going to call up Tommy Marinelli, right? Is that how you pronounce that? Oh, did I nail it or what? All right. And Brooklyn Dawson, come on up. And Dan as well. So you're going to handle the other part, right? Yes. All right, carry on. So guess what, folks? It is Water Conservation Month. It is hereby proclaimed by the mayor of the city of Palm Bay, the greatest city on the face of the earth, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource. And whereas clean, safe, and reliable water resources and supplies are vital to the city of Palm Bay's economy, our environment, and our people. And whereas the state of Florida, water management districts, and the Palm Bay Utilities Department are working together to increase the awareness about the importance of water conservation. And whereas the city of Palm Bay and the state of Florida have designated April, typically a dry month when water demands are most acute, as Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about saving water resources. And whereas each citizen in our city is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water utility. Every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water. And whereas the Palm Bay Utilities Department is committed to setting a good example for its citizens regarding water conservation, has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events. And whereas leak prevention is commonly thought to be the first step in conserving water, the Palm Bay Utility Department will encourage citizens and businesses to fix their leaky sinks and anything that leaks. Now therefore, I, Rob Medina, Mayor of the City of Palm Bay, by virtue of the authority of said office, do hereby proclaim Water Conservation Month, April 2024, as Water Conservation Month, and call upon all our citizens and businesses of Palm Bay for this, the 26th year of Water Conservation Month, to help protect our most precious resource by practicing water-saving measures, checking for leaks, becoming more aware of the need to save water. Congratulations. Now, Brooklyn.
Well, good evening, everyone, and happy Water Conservation Month. My name is Brooklyn Dawson, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here with Palm Bay Utilities Department. I'm responsible for educating the community on the importance of water, and I'm joined here tonight by Utilities Department Interim Director Tommy Marinelli and our new Utilities Engineer, Dan Perez. Mayor Medina, Deputy Mayor Felix, Councilman Johnson, and Councilman Foster, on behalf of myself and our entire department, I'd like to thank you for recognizing this very significant month. Living in Palm Bay and being constantly surrounded by large bodies of water, it's extremely easy for us to forget the value of clean, fresh drinking water and the availability of it when we turn on the tap. Every year, the Palm Bay Utilities Department challenges its community members to practice water conservation as part of their daily routine through simple tasks such as cutting your shower times in half, turning off your faucet while you brush your teeth, checking your toilets and sinks for leaks, limiting recreational water use for your children's toys, and by following lawn irrigation restrictions available to you on pbud.org. In addition to that, this year, our department is challenging itself to conserve water in any way possible. New internal procedures are being set in place to limit the need for large-scale flushing throughout our city, and infrastructure improvements are being made throughout the city to ensure more sustainable practices are possible across the utility. This month, we're offering a very wide range of engagement and events in which community members and their families can participate in. Starting April 15th, community members can pick up free water conservation kits at our customer care office, which is located here at City Hall. We'll have both adult and kiddo-friendly kits available, and they're free of charge. In collaboration with Parks and Recreation, our Public Works Department, and the Sustainability Advisory Board, we will be in support of the Palm Bay's second annual Sustainability Fair, which is taking place next weekend on April 13th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Fred Poppy Regional Park. There's going to be a free rain barrel workshop. I do believe that pre-registration is required. You can find that information online. There'll be eco vendors, free sustainable demonstrations, giveaways, and of course a movie on the lawn to end your evening. We do hope that you will come out and join us for that very fun community activity. Flip page. So beginning education on topics like water conservation early is vital for our youth and in securing sustainably grounded and environmentally conscious future for our city. We've created a curriculum that parallels the Environmental Protection Agency's Water Sense program, A Day in the Life of a Drop, and we continue to have many resources available to share with our community's educators. Excitingly, our department is now one of the only of its kind in the entire state to actually offer curriculums for pre-K through 12th grade. Our newest campaign actually features one of our favorite groovy felines, Pete the Cat, as he leads the It's Potty Time potty training campaign. This is a 10-day self-guided take-home program. And thanks to our public information officer, Christina Bourne, this program has made a very big splash, not only here in our community, but throughout the county as far north as Patrick Space Force Base, where we have kits in the Child Development Center. Adults and their potty trainers can pick up these free kits at our Utilities Customer Care Office at City Hall, because developing healthy toilet habits at a young age is very critical in becoming a friendly flusher and preserving our city's wastewater system. So I would now like to launch Water Conservation Month with something quite exciting by introducing you to the newest and, dare I say, our soon-to-be most recognizable face here at the Palm Bay Utilities Department. Inspired by an almost 50-year employee and Palm Bay resident, Robert Hinkle, as a thank you and tribute for all of his loyalty and dedication to the citizens of Palm Bay and to the Utilities Department, I would like to present to you our newest outreach mascot, the very one and the very only Mr. Bob Sprinkle.
There you go, Bob.
Bob. He's a baby. He's new to walking, so. Bob's arrival to the Utilities Department has been a project that we have been developing nearly for 2.5 years. He's a character that represents the character of our employees, loyalty and dedication, and he's a symbol of fun in water education. He will serve as a friendly face for our community's youngest and most sustainable leaders. And as the need for outreach has increased, changes in our consumer information behavior and old education patterns are failing, expanding our public education in a new, fresh, and intriguing light is key to maximizing exposure on these very, very important subjects. So in 2022, I actually sought out a subject matter expert in my biggest audience, a 6th grader, who had an artistic vision that matched the very image in my mind's eye of what Bob would look like. With a few details and one non-negotiable attribute, Robert Hinkle, who has retired at this time, had a very iconic mustache, and this guy's matches it, so we needed that. The birth of this character was designed. This would not have been made possible without the help of that very talented and special young woman who is actually here with us tonight. And with her mother, father, grandmother, and uncle all being valued employees of the city of Palm Bay, I feel it only fitting that she too get to make her personal mark on our city. So in grateful appreciation for her outstanding creativity and her imagination, the entire Palm Bay Utilities Department would like to recognize Miss Ryla Kratz this evening for being the architect. So as a small token of our gratitude, we would like to present her with this award of achievement. And on behalf of the entire Utilities Department, we want to wish you happy Conservation Month and thank you so much for your conservation efforts. And she gets this cool shirt like mine. So for all her hard.
Come on over. Congratulations.
Christina, are you taking a photo? I don't know where the best is to stand.
Isn't she cool? What about
Where's
Grandma?
Grandma?
Where's Grandma? Come
She's
on,
over there.
Grandma. Come on, Grandma.
Can you see us all?
Yeah.
Perfect. Got it.
Awesome. Congratulations. Appreciate you, brother. Good to see you, brother. Okay. So we are now on new business item number 2. Madam Sherman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This
Oh,
is sir.
as you were.
Yes, sir.
Before you introduce this item, yes, Madam Attorney.
Yes, sir. This is the consideration of a co-sponsorship for the Family Christmas Extravaganza. In this item, the Mayor Medina will be abstaining from voting. A few years ago, I did contact the Commission on Ethics because although the mayor it does not hold a paid position with the church, he is a pastor at the church, and we wanted to make sure that he wasn't doing anything that would be unethical, even though there wasn't anything for his special private gain, but didn't appear to be something where he was using his position as mayor to improperly provide a benefit to others. And we were advised that under section 286.0112 Florida statute that he should abstain because although there wasn't a conflict under 112.31.43, it could be the appearance of a possible conflict of interest. I did advise the mayor, and it has always been his policy to act in a way that does not adversely affect upon the city or upon his own morals or ethics. So he has since then abstained from voting and disclosed his connection with the affiliation with the church, as he will be doing today.
Thank you, ma'am. And at this time, I'm going to pass over the gavel to Deputy Mayor, and I will be stepping off the dais as well.
Mayor, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Can we, I know you're not gonna vote and you can step up there, but can we use you to ask questions? Is that's
That's
legal?
a question for the city attorney. Madam Attorney?
So you're going to go.
If I have a question that asks and I wanted the mayor input, can I do that?
I would prefer, because I know we have several people out here, one of which that I see all the time, and I'm sure, he may not be as enthusiastic as the mayor, but he's very enthusiastic and highly knowledgeable, and I think he will probably be able to answer the question. So I would prefer if we could have the presenters from the Family Christmas Extravaganza. If they're unable to answer it and they want to ask the mayor to help out, we can go from there. But let's first see if they're able to answer the questions.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
So at this time, I'm passing the gavel, and Deputy Mayor, you oversee the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, we will, I believe, bring forward the presenter of this item. Yeah! Pastor Delgado.
I stand corrected.
As a point of order, I think that's what I would call it. Should I bring everybody up now, or should we bring them up later? Later. Is that a question that I can ask you all before I start?
I'd say bring them up now.
Come on down. Deputy Mayor, thank you. And council members, thank you very much. Just want to make a note that this is the 16th Christmas extravaganza, and the previous dioceses that were here before Mayor Medina was mayor still looked forward to this great event. And so first of all, as I said, it was the 16th year. I just want to make a couple of notes. Because I know there's always the question of, should the city co-sponsor an event like this? And because for budgeting purposes, etc. And I just want to bring up a couple of thoughts. Number one, we have parks. Why do we have parks? They don't produce any money for the city. It is a net, quote unquote, at least financially speaking, a net loss. But we don't look at parks as a net loss, because we know that those parks are helping the quality of life in the city of Palm Bay. We think of the parades that you all co-sponsor or even have. Likewise, it is a community event to express goodwill for the whole of city of the Palm Bay. And then you have the reality that what price tag can you put on a good name? This is a community, and we have a community atmosphere. The intrinsic value of having a good name as a city that cares about families cannot be placed aside, because a good name that draws families and businesses to this community is an important factor that we should always consider. This is family friendly. This is where thousands, if not tens of thousands of people come. Why? Because the community appreciates the expression of unity that you have prepared or have set the table for, so that the businesses that come and so that the churches that also co-sponsor can make this event something that just enhances the quality life of the city of Palm Bay. Forget for a minute that our budget on our side, which costs the city nothing, of $30,000, plus gifts of thousands of dollars by businesses that reside right here in the city of Palm Bay, because they're saying yes to Palm Bay, because this is a great city. As a matter of fact, I heard that in the streets they're saying it is the greatest city on the face of the earth. It's out in the streets, it's in the alleys, it's in the byways, but that's what I heard out there in the city. Forget that there's 600 man hours that go before the event in planning and strategizing, and the fact there are 1,600 hours, man hours, of the community itself volunteering their time and effort to make this a great event. This is the greatest Christmas party on the Space Coast that draws in people even beyond our county limits. This is what Palm Bay is about. And thus, I invite not just the businesses and the churches and the individuals to partner with us to make this the greatest Christmas party, as already double-digit churches are and businesses. But I invite the city of Palm Bay also to consider partnering with this event that started in the backyard of a church and now is reaching the county and beyond. Thank you for your consideration. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
I will say, I just want to say thank you so much for even giving us an opportunity to be able to be up here. The Family Christmas Extravaganza is an event that is very valuable. It is something that people that come that can't even afford Christmas gifts for their families, it is something that they provided. They even say, I couldn't even get one gift for my child, yet you guys provided it. And it's not us, it's the community that comes together to be able to make that happen. So without the community, without the city, without the different businesses, it's not possible. So for that, we thank you. We thank you guys for even giving us an opportunity to be up here. And thank you for making the extravaganza something amazing that happens every year and supersedes what we ever expect for it to be.
Do I have a little more time?
And although it is a Christian event as well, it's become a tradition for Palm Bay. Everywhere I go, secular or kingdom wise, it's a tradition. Like, we're known for the Family Christmas Extravaganza. From the saved to the unsaved, it's our thing here. So it's part of us.
I'll just add one thing. This year, I think more than ever, this year, I believe for the very first time, it's actually 3 days before Christmas itself this year. So I think that's just vital to the community this year more than ever, that families come out, they put their cell phones, they put their electronics away, they have family time. That's what it's all about.
Pastor Delgado and team, I'm not going to even attempt to add anything else to your presentation, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask that question. How much would it cost a family to attend this event?
Well, that's a very good question. I thank you for asking. Amazingly, it's FREE, free for the community. Everything is free.
Thank you so much. Thank you, team. Thank you so much for the presentation. Any questions, gentlemen?
Okay. I have a question. One of the first events when I moved to Palm Bay was this Christmas extravaganza. And that's where I met Ron Medina for the first time. And he won me over then. I didn't meet you, Pastor. I wish I did. But I met Ron Medina, and it was in West Melbourne. It was in West Melbourne. So and that's why I had a question for you. Could probably answer this. What made y'all move from West Melbourne to Palm Bay?
Actually, it was by invitation of the city mayor of that time that invited us. They said, Pastor Ken, this is an amazing event. You're in Palm Bay. What are you doing over there at West Melbourne? Seemed like a logical question. And so he actually invited us to come to the city of Palm Bay to have that event here.
That's very important, because it was a council before this that invited you here. And since you left West Melbourne, how did the crowd, it seemed like it grew larger and larger every time I showed up. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. It has, from that moment, it has mushroomed to the point that I'm going, I could have never imagined that it would be what it is today, including mechanical rides.
Right.
I mean, at some point, I'm wondering, what's next? A Ferris wheel.
Do you have approximately how many Palm Bay residents attended extravaganza? Do you know a number?
We don't have, it's virtually impossible to know how many Palm Bayers come to this event. What we do know is that on the pings, now I may be slightly off here, but I believe on the pings there was like 25,000 people 2 years ago. Of course, last year we had more rain than what we wanted, although we're thankful for conserving water. We pray that would not be the day for water to come. But if I'm not mistaken, about 25,000. But the reality is that because we are in Palm Bay, the initial amount of people that came were basically all Palm Bayers. It was the name that continued to increase that began to attract people from other cities and then from beyond our county.
Thank you. And Pastor, Can you give me a short story? Have you helped someone who's impoverished, in poverty, who family come from a broken family that shows up at your event that changed their life? Can you give me a short story?
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's multiple stories here. One that really hits me is someone who came. They won the grand prize as well as leaving with armful of other items that were given throughout that day. And they said this: our house had burned down. We were forced to go live in our one of our extended family's home, and we are squished into one room. Our way of life does not match how the rest of the family was living, but because you gave us what we had, not only did we have Christmas presents when we could not afford one, but in addition to that, they happened to receive a video, a movie video. They said we were actually able to have, so to speak, a movie at home in our room. You made Christmas for us. That's just one of countless stories that anybody here could share.
Yeah, Christmas is to me the most important holiday in the United States, and although we celebrate Jesus' birth, a lot of people wind up taking their lives or doing something crazy.
So true.
And we have to pray for. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for what you do. That's all the questions I have.
Pastor Delgado, thank you so much, and team, thank you so much for the presentation.
And thank you all for what you've done in times past. We appreciate you all very much.
Thank you. At this time, we like to bring Mr. Bill Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. I have to stay true to my beliefs. I'm not a fan of the city of Palm Bay using tax dollar money to co-sponsor tax exempt identities, so I have to stay true to that belief and present that as I see it. One thing I do greatly appreciate, though, about the annual Family Christmas Extravaganza is they are the only group that I ever see coming back to the city after their event and then giving cash donation. Well, it's not cash, it's a check. Donation back to the city to help contribute towards the city for offsetting the cost and for their appreciation for the effort that the police and the fire and public works have to, and parks and recs have to actually submit into their helping their function come to completion. So they're the only group that I ever see doing that. And when I say a little bit, I mean a significant amount. I think last year was $9,000, which is almost as much as what they asked for. But I have to stay true to who I am and say I am not a fan of co-sponsorship of the city to nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Batten. Just a second, the technical. This concludes public comment on this item, gentlemen. Bring it back to you for a motion.
I make a motion to approve this co-sponsorship of Christmas Extravaganza.
Second. Any additional comment?
Yeah, I just want to be brief. I just want to thank the house and the volunteers. Thank you for what you do. You make Christmas in Palm Bay every year, and this is a very important event. The value that you bring to the city is unmatched. It's beyond money. The volunteer, the work, the hard work you put in, and to bring the businesses together. You bring business together to make Palm Bay better, and that's our goal on this dais, to make Palm Bay the greatest city on the face of the earth. So that's my comment. I just want to, Pastor Delgado, Pastor Rob Medina, volunteers, I don't know your name, but thank you.
I'm not going to attempt to to say any more. Enough's been said about this event. This event proving its fruits over the years. Again, it's quality of life added, value added to our community. I couldn't imagine a Christmas without this event, to be quite honest. So I'm gonna leave it as that. I yield my time to
Yeah, I'll
my
try.
colleague.
I'll try to be brief, sir. And I'm with Mr. Batten. I said it last meeting. I'm with Mr. Batten regarding, you know, co-sponsorship for events and using tax dollars when we already have grants and funding in other areas, like we mentioned the CDBG. But then I've had meaningful conversations throughout the week, Pastor. I haven't spoken to you, but it's almost like I've spoken to you through others, is what I'll say. People that you don't even know, but stories similar to what you spoke about. And with that, I have to look at just not just the logistical of it, but also the impact it has on the families, like you said. These events like this sometimes give hope. That's something that, just being honest, within the past 24 hours, the gentleman on the bridge, he felt hopeless. These are some of the uncomfortable conversations we're not having, but I'm grateful, for having these conversations throughout the week and seeing, it's more like Councilman Foster said, in some cases it is more than dollars. Am I happy with the co-sponsorship as it is? Do I think it needs to be revisited or revised? Yes, but I see the impact with it, Pastor. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your team. I'm excited for the next one too, because we talk about educational attainment. So I want to, event like this. Yes, we're giving our youth hope, but let's also push them towards, applying for jobs and, trying to get a job in the city or things of that nature. So I just want to keep it moving forward. So I appreciate you, Pastor. That's why I'm looking directly at you, sir. And I appreciate what your team's doing. Mayor, I appreciate you too, sir. I know you're trying to stay off on the cut, but I appreciate you for this, sir. So we're going to keep it in Palm Bay. I heard what you said. You like, hey, Councilman Johnson, don't mess it up and they go back to West Melbourne. I heard what you said. So I'm not going to mess it up. I'm going to be real, but I appreciate everything and I will be supporting it today. So thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously.
City on the face of the Thank you. Congratulations. We are now on item number 3. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. This next item is a co-sponsorship request for the Brevard Public School Career and Technical Education Department's recruitment fair. I believe a representative of Brevard Public Schools is here to share a little bit about the event and why they're requesting a co-sponsorship.
Good evening. My name is Peter Phillips. I'm with Brevard Public Schools and responsible for internships for high school students in their final year of high school. We're partnering with local businesses. They will be at City Hall. I think it's also instrumental that young people are going to be in City Hall that day. So that's a learning experience for them. We intend to invite between 25 and 30 businesses here to recruit those young people in their final year of high school. I'm excited to share that over 40 young people have applied for those internships that live in the city of Palm Bay.
How many? Say that again. How many?
40.
40.
And that's out of 200 applicants throughout the county. That doesn't mean that the work is done. We still have a lot more work to do. And I'm excited to share as well, or at least hope to be able to report later on, that many of them will be employed by the city as well as local businesses.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation, sir?
Unless there are any questions, absolutely.
Yeah, well, no questions at this time. And I know Councilman Johnson here is biting at the chump to ask questions or give you a comment. But from my perspective, anything that we can do to assist a young mind, a young person to seek a future, within the confines of being a great productive citizen, other than joining the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Just wanted to put that out there because I believe in joining the military. And I won't be biased, any branch of service, but I really love this opportunity in leading others, leading our youth to be productive and have a hard work ethic. I'll yield now to Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. The only question I had was, what are some of the advertising methods you're looking at doing, or that you have been doing? Advertising methods.
This is with local businesses?
Can you get closer to the mic, sir?
Is that better? My apologies. Yeah.
Mostly for the youth, but you can elaborate on local
attracting the
Yes.
students. Okay, excellent. We obviously advertise through Brevard schools,
Okay.
but we also go directly to the schools.
Okay.
Okay. And each student has the opportunity to apply. We still have a lot of work in terms of getting that information out to all young people, right? And so each school also has a career fair at their location where our staff are represented to talk to students about internships. We also share that information through social media, but ultimately through their peers. I'm excited to share that this year's 180 is a record number in the county for students applying for internships. We want to see that number grow. We definitely want to see it grow locally as well.
Okay, thank
Can't
you.
do it without you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask is, I definitely know if we, tap into the principles at, Palm Bay High, Bayside Heritage, and they send out, just like, our city manager will send out a citywide email.
Right.
They can send out a, high school wide email to all the teachers. Hey, make sure you present this opportunity to our kids.
And that does happen.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
And teens.
Yeah. Teens. Yep. Yes. Everybody. So, all right. I'm good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No
Council?
question, man.
we have-
Question.
Yes, sir. Councilman Foster?
Some of these, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you can answer this question, but the high schools, Bayside, Palm Bay, Heritage, they have some technical classes, don't they?
Right.
Do you know some of the students that take these technical classes for employment after high school? Do you know any of them have applied for this internship?
Great question. I think it's important, as you mentioned that, I think folks are familiar with well, if you're not familiar with the term CTE, Career and Technical Education,
Right.
those are the programs that you're describing. Part of our expectation is that the students who are getting opportunities for these internships have done at least 2 years in a CTE program. So they're coming out into the community with credentials. Okay, so they're pretty attractive and talented young people that's available to local business as well as obviously local government. And I always say, to businesses, it's an opportunity for them to look at how they build capacity in their organization. We're not looking for a handout or a help out. Okay, these young people actually have talents and skills that could actually transform your organization. And we're using it in the school systems to fill gaps that we can't fill ourselves. I'm talking about me personally.
So,
So the answer to your question is absolutely yes. There's a direct connection. The CTE programs really serves the internship programs. In addition to that, we're bringing businesses into this space, which then allows businesses to tap those young talents, okay, for industry as they graduate, or indeed support their education. Many of these businesses will also pay for their higher education as they transition from high school.
Right. So these are the great students, I would call them.
Mhm.
These are not the bad students. These are not the dropouts. These are not the ones that get in. These are the good students that need a chance. Would you say that?
I would say that it's a cross spectrum, and very often we're going to have to dig deeper. Companies are also going to have to dig deeper. We have very bright and talented young people locally. There's no doubt about that. We have some folks who are in between. We have some folks who also have to find their way. But all of them ultimately have a passion. That part of our job is to connect them to that and help them find their way so that they can help our city thrive. And as I said, being part of this collaboration allows you to be part of that team also.
I like what you said. Help them find their way to a career, and that's very important to me. That's giving a person an opportunity, no matter what their background, and that's what I like. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Councilman Foster, you're spot on with that. I'll just share a little bit. We have a manufacturing company right here in Palm Bay, and I shared this under my reports last meeting with Shapes and the program that Bayside High School has. They're funneling these students. They get certified, right, with those credentials that he's referring to, and they got a job opportunity in manufacturing right now, and they're building parts for the F-35.
Yep.
They're getting government contracts right here in Palm Bay. So I'm really excited about the vocations that are being taught by our high schools today here in Brevard County. Kind of like Gompers in New York City, Aviation High School. Those high schools were geared towards vocation. So the Brevard public schools are doing the same similar thing. And I'm excited about what's actually happened, giving these youngsters an opportunity to also join the United States Armed Forces. Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Mayor, I think you gentlemen pretty much spot on. I'd just like to thank you for that foresight and really creating that space for these young people to come out. Remember, my daughter, I have a 22-year-old that she got out of high school with her nursing assistant certification, so went right into the workforce. So I know these are very invaluable services and opportunity for our young people. So I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any speaker cards, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, we do. Mr. Batten.
Good, sir. Have a seat.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. As always, co-sponsorship. I have to stay true to who I am. I don't believe any identity that isn't paying taxes should get a break. In fact, I look at my taxes. The largest amount of tax I pay on my tax bill goes to the school already. So then they're going to ask for co-sponsorship within the city, which they're entitled to get. By the way, our policy currently stands, and I understand that wholeheartedly. But when I was going through the agenda packet, I didn't see their application for the co-sponsorship in the packet. And so that generates a question: did they meet the 45-day deadline in submission of their application before this event? All right. That being said, I have to stay true to who I am. The program's there. They're entitled to utilize it. I understand that. But did they follow the proper procedures? And if not, just because it wasn't in the packet, that's not saying it's not there. I just did not see it in the packet as I do with all the other co-sponsorship requests. So I have to stay true. That's the way it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Sherman?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know offhand why it wasn't included, but I do know from staff that it was handled in the normal process procedure timeframe. So there was nothing unusual about this particular one. And I apologize we didn't have all that normal information in the packet for you. We can certainly get that to you afterwards, sir.
Deputy Mayor, next speaker.
This conclude for this item, sir.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Deputy Mayor?
Nothing else to add, sir. Thank you.
Councilman?
Only other thing, Mayor, a few years ago, we started with the partnership with the CTE programs, and for certain positions within the city, I would just like to see us get back to that in regards to getting them in here and getting them started, because we got a lot of people retiring. We just had Lieutenant Bland just retired, Commander Sanders, so there's a need to be filled, and we want local. We want local. We want to show them that we appreciate them, just like we appreciate you coming to us, and make sure we give them the guidance and the experience, because once this wave of people start retiring and all that experience is gone, it's not coming back. So I would love for us to try to get as many interns as we can that might be interested in getting that generational knowledge from decades at a time that can surpass anything you can get in school sometimes. So I appreciate you, sir. I'm excited about this, and let's move it forward.
All right, sir. So I've got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We are now on we're on item number 4. Madam Sherman.
Thank you,
New
Mayor.
business item number 4.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is consideration of purchasing the property that includes the Evans Center. It's on 4 parcels in the northeast section of the city. And I'll defer to Joan Ucala Brown, Deputy City Manager, to introduce the item for us tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Manager.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have been approached by the Evans Center and Neighbor Up Brevard, and they are here this evening as well, about 4 properties that they own that make up the Evans Center, which has a facility approximately just over 6,000 square feet. We received an interest in purchasing the property, and the city explored this in discussions with them a little bit further. What we learned is they have 2 mortgage notes held by Florida Community Loan Fund. We'll refer to them as Loan A and Loan B. Loan A has a principal value of $368,602.73. Loan B has a principal value of $299,997.50. And in addition to those loans, the Evans Center also has a grant provided by the Bayfront Community Redevelopment Agency in 2018 in the value of $250,000, which holds a second lien position. The Evans Center conducted an appraisal. They received an appraised value for a nonprofit value of $1 million or a for-profit value of $1.3 million. In addition to that, they do have an existing lease with Brevard Health Alliance, which expires October 2027. And Brevard Health Alliance pays, I think, $1,100 per month, and that includes various utility bills and security. We did receive confirmation this week that the Florida Community Loan Fund would be willing to forgive the 100% of the principal value of Loan B, which is approximately $300,000, should the city desire to acquire the property and maintain the property as a public facility for benefit of the community. And so in discussing all of that and identifying what their outstanding balance and loans are, and looking at the appraised value as a nonprofit entity, the city purchasing the property at the appraised value of $1 million, backing out the $250,000 from the CRA grant, if forgiven, backing out the forgiveness of Loan B, about $300,000. That leaves approximately about a little under $500,000 for the city to negotiate the purchase of the Evans Center facility and land. So with that, I'll state, we have had general discussions about what the community wants to see in that facility. I know that the Evans Center did issue a community survey. The survey response came back. Overwhelmingly, they responded with they like access to fresh foods, meats and groceries, expanded healthcare and career readiness and training. And with that, if there's any additional information you have for me, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we have representatives of Evans Center and Neighbor Up Brevard in the audience.
Yeah. Do they want to share a presentation with us?
I'm sure they'd be happy to speak.
Okay, so do you have an order of sequence of the speakers?
I don't think we had formal presentations, but
okay,
if you'd like a single representative to come up, we can do that. How would you like to do that, sir?
Well, does council have any questions, first of all?
I do, Mayor.
Okay. Do you have questions of okay,
yeah.
carry on.
You mentioned a survey. Now, how old is this survey? Is that prior to, is that the original survey before the Evans Center opened, or is that recent? How recent?
Do you mean appraisal or survey?
On the survey.
The community survey.
Community
So I
survey,
would defer to Evans Center to speak on this directly because they were the ones that conducted the survey. But
Okay.
my understanding is I believe it was in 2023 when the survey went out.
2023. Okay. Loan A, would you repeat the amount of Loan A for me, if you would, please?
Loan A is $368,602.73.
And B?
$299,997.50.
Perfect. Thank you.
300 Gs.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi. Did you want to approach? Please state your name.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, to the rest of the esteemed dais. I'm Jordan Chandler. I serve as the Vice President for the Board of Neighbor Up Brevard Board of Directors. In addition to, I'm also a board member for Evans Center, and also a proud resident of the greatest city on the face of the earth.
Good evening. My name is Val Terry. I am the president of the Evans Center Inc. board. Lynn Brockwell Carey is in the back. She just retired, such a beautiful thing, from Neighbor Up. And I recognize Denise Carter, who is also here. She is on the Neighbor Up board, as well as Leslie Tibbetts, who is the president of the Neighbor Up board. So in regards to your question to the community survey, that was taken back in October of 2023. There had been a previous survey done probably a year or so before, but we wanted to make sure that we were looking at all possible benefits to that area and the surrounding areas. And a lot of residents that were supporting and patronizing the Evans Center market were those senior citizens who had like transportation limits, or just were not able to get the support from family that they needed. So they leaned heavily on the market for social activities, as well as getting food assistance. So that's why you see that resounding response. We want fresh foods and meats in this location.
Any other
I have a
and-
question. I have a question, man.
Go ahead, Councilman Foster.
I want that restaurant back open. You know, I had an office down the street from you guys, and I ate lunch there many a times. Not only Palm Bay Finance Police Department police officers used to go there all the time to eat lunch, and it was a good restaurant, a good price too. I'm sorry to hear it close. It really broke my heart to hear. I know y'all worked real hard, and y'all gave young people an opportunity to work there. You gave them an opportunity. I talked to some of the young people that worked in that supermarket. What I know you're appraised. This might be a dumb question. The condition of the building. Do you have a opinion? Is it, we're not going to get a building that is, falling apart, or can you speak on that? The condition of the Evans Center, the whole center itself, because it looks from the outside, it looks pretty good. I don't know what the inside looks like.
I would venture to say that the last time that you visited is how it looks, except the shelving is down and the kitchen is not operational. So you're not going to be getting a building that's going to break down in 2 days as soon as you purchase it. It's sound. The community room is still in the back and has use. As she mentioned before, Brevard Health Alliance is still seeing patients in the back. So the only part that's not operational is the market, as well as the kitchen. And that's just because we had to shut that down.
And can you just briefly explain the historical name of that building and what it does for the community?
Councilman Foster. So the Evans Center was first established, if I dare not to say, probably back in the 1950s by Mr. Evans. That store existed for a number of years. Many individuals in the community who could not afford, right, to go to Walmart or to go elsewhere, obviously patronized the Evans Center, Evans store, excuse me, even up until when I was a little boy back in the early 2000s, I would walk from my house to Evans store quite often. Unfortunately, I think Evans store closed probably middle of 2000. Unfortunately, it had incurred a lot of drug and criminal activity. And so that facility was then shut down. Then the city actually came in, if I'm not mistaken, actually purchased that particular property, I think under former city manager Lee Feldman. He wanted to continue to keep that property in addition to that almost dilapidated building in the hands of the city. But then another city manager came in, hearts and minds were changed a little bit, and they decided to sell that property to what is now Neighbor Brevard. In addition, we're just the guarantor on the loan, but in addition to the Evans Center, for the benefit of it being a community market for the community. Unfortunately, when Evans Center then made its resurgence, 2018, 2019, we then faced what we know as COVID. right? And so we ran into a number of issues, not getting individuals to patronize the business in the way that it should have been due to a number of issues. But ultimately, that is sort of the historical significance. That building, or former building, was a staple in the community for 50, 60 years, and a lot of people depended on it. And so in that same vein, and sort of siding with former city manager Lee Feldman, we would love to it to come full circle and get back in the hands of the city so that we can continue to make sure that it is a community asset for those who live, work, and play in the great city of Palm Bay.
Now, didn't Mr. Evans, I'm sorry, didn't Mr. Evans was really devoted to literacy as well?
I would say yes, sir. I did not personally have the opportunity to meet Mr. Evans because I was fairly young at that particular point in time. I don't remember my interaction with him, so I'll lean on Val a little bit to answer that.
Mr. Evans was a phenomenal man. Again, I can echo his sentiments. I could walk in that store. He knew my name. Of course, he knew my parents, which was always a good thing in the neighborhood. But he always encouraged children to get their education. He encouraged us to continue to do well. And a lot of us went to the area schools, right? So you have Stone Middle School at that time. You have Palm Bay High School and University Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we all were centered between the churches, Evans store, and school. And with his own family, we saw how he pushed his children and his grandchildren to excel beyond what you see here in Melbourne. Get your education, do something great, and then come back and give back. So that is exactly what I've done as a resident of your neighboring great city of Melbourne. Is I learned from those older people, those seasoned people who poured into us, encouraged us, and now we have an opportunity to make a difference for the next generation of young people, to see that we can have something positive out of something that could be looked at negative and has been talked about negatively. But we want to bridge those things and show how impactful we can be when we come together with one mind of the community and what benefits us most.
Thank you, ma'am. So I wanted to ask a question, and you're probably more qualified to answer this, being that you know the history. I wanted to talk a little bit about the marketplace aspect of it. Was it profitable, or was it always trying to compete with the larger markets? We see a lot of small mom and pop stores that they're not able to compete with the Walmarts, as you so mentioned before, and these big markets. So I think my question surrounds is more towards, was there ever a profit margin that could have been maintained, or was it just a losing battle because of the competition of those big markets?
So I would venture to say that I'm sorry.
on
Oh,
mic.
you can't hear me. I'm
Yes.
sorry. So with the kitchen, the
Yes.
deli,
Yes.
that was the money maker, right? So you
Yeah.
go and you have your breakfast in the morning, and some people would come in and have their lunch as well. That was what was bringing in most of the business because of COVID. And I love how Lynn explains it as the perfect storm. We opened the store. People had to get used to Evans being there when Walmart grocery store had been down the street, which is within a mile. I did a market research myself, and when I looked at all of the little markets, foods, it was a ton of them, right? But what stood out with Evans is we had that hometown feel. People could come in, they recognized you. Oh, you're gonna get the shrimp and grits again, or are you gonna get and that was, you don't get that when you go to Walmart. Everyone knows that, right? So when it came to the market, there was some struggle there with trying to source. So that is what made the market not as strong as going to the Walmart right down the street. But that deli was the gem.
So the deli was the profit maker, and then you lost on the market side, the groceries, so to speak. Am I understanding that correctly?
I would say you're breaking even. There just wasn't a profit margin. Sometimes there was, and some other months it wasn't. But when COVID hit, it it was just the perfect storm.
Awesome.
Can I say something?
Yeah, carry on, Councilman Foster.
You know, I like what you said because I bought things out of that store and your prices was not high. It was reasonable, but you didn't overprice people. And I know the community, I seen how the seniors showed up before COVID or after COVID, have the seniors use that Evans Center and took advantage of it and really you helped the community. So thank you. Thank you for what y'all tried to do. But Mr. Evans was a community leader and a historical figure in that area. What would you say? Okay, that's all I have, man.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, any questions?
Mayor, I don't have much to add to the questions and comments you guys already made. I personally as well, like Councilman Foster, I've made several trips there. You know, my office is right down the street as well, so I did everything I could to support. I even lended my help, my expertise when it comes to supermarket and so on, and several meeting with Lynn and try to help out and see how we could contribute to saving the overall I think really which is a cornerstone of our community, but you know numbers sometimes they just not there. You mentioned quite a few different area, and there's some other stuff as well, and that bring the question to the survey. That's why I asked that. So kind of wanted to understand the survey when it was dated. So my concern is if it was as recent as 23, right? So if you would break it down, the community's telling us what they wanted, but that's what the center give over the years. And I do get COVID and so on. It's almost I'm a bit conflicted in terms of you telling us you want fresh fruit, you want a market, you want this, that, and the other in that order, but yet it didn't for 5 or 6, 7 years. We couldn't sustain as a model. The model didn't work. COVID certainly, there's no doubt, but the model did not work. So you see where I'm going with this, right? So I'm looking at strictly the business aspect of things and looking at the numbers. Did it, the survey say one thing and that's what was given. Why did it not succeed? So I'm just gonna let that sink in and
Copy that.
and definitely, I mean, and certainly our decision today is just to move forward, how the
Yes.
city gonna move
Right.
forward. So that's for us to guide our decision. These folks did their thing, and I applaud your services and what you guys did, your time, and certainly we're all in agreement that this will stay to the service of the community. Whatever shape or form. I don't know if I'll ever be a market again, but just I wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Deputy
Thank you
Mayor.
so much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I hear what you're saying and where you're going. I will share this and I'll be in total transparency. I used to go to the Evans Center. I was a lottery marketing representative in the 90s, and they were one of my good customers, retail wise. We were able to sell plenty of lottery tickets there. And then I evolved to serve as an aide to a Brevard County commissioner. And during that time, Denise Carter and myself, we worked closely regarding the community. Denise, back in those days, was blessed with me to work for Brevard County as well. And part of that, I remember the discussion of that community action group that really motivated the community together and get the Evans Center Save It during the early 2000s. So I know a big history of that, and I know the value, because I don't think we've tapped into that, the value of that Evans Center to that community. I think we're going to have to start looking at how we expand that value how can we enhance that value? In my mind, I'm thinking of so many different programs. I will share in total transparency. Most people know I come from a different city, an inner city, where I can tell you that the Sea Cadets instilled the discipline in me. The Boys Club, because it was before the Boys and Girls Club. And we're talking about in the Bronx, which I don't know how many people know, but the Bronx, in the South Bronx in particular, and they provided a venue, an avenue for this child. Yes, I'm still young, to get an opportunity to get into the United States Marine Corps and just build my life that way. Help me through education. It was only done because of sports. It was only done because of mentorship. The Sea Cadets instill a discipline in me that I wanted to pursue in the Marine Corps. It also put me with mentors, veterans, that pointed me towards the right direction. So I mention all of that because I wanted council to hear my heart as far as the value that this can bring towards the neighborhood. And I believe in that. The point I think Deputy Mayor was making is, where's the investment going to lie? Are we going into, we can't go down a range where something that we know already has a history. We've got to tap into investing in our children and seeing what best direction to go down that path. Because that's how I'm looking at it. As I'm looking at this is an opportunity. We've had many people talk about Melbourne PAL, Palm Bay PAL. We've had so many different programs, Boys and Girls Club, that instill, the Club Esteem is another opportunity that can literally save a life in neighborhoods that otherwise don't have that type of mentorship. So that I just wanted to get that out, because this is something that I know is beyond the dollars and cents that Deputy Mayor you were bringing up, because we already know, hey, Councilman Forsyth said, I loved eating there, right? I loved lunch. I loved eating there. And the deli was marketable, but the other aspect to it was not. And so I just wanted to share my heart in this before we even get to speakers. But I just want to let you know, ma'am, that I've been plugged into the community for decades. I've been here since the 90s, and Ms. Carter could vouch for that. So thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Carry on. Oh, you have something.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. As you are.
Deputy Mayor Felix, let me just sort of address your question. As Val hinted, during COVID, the deli was profitable, but the market wasn't. Once again, we were in a period of serious high inflation. A lot of the community members told us that there were certain things that they would like in the community, but obviously it wasn't advantageous because of, unfortunately, inflation. And so one of the things that we heard from some of the members of the community was, why would I go and, to Evan's store and shop when I could just go to neighborhood Walmart and get everything I need in a one-stop shop, right? And so I think it's important to take that in consideration, just at the particular time frame that we were in. But also, to your point, Mayor, when the resurgence of Evans Center came back, there was really this holistic approach to it, right? Churches were involved. And so one of the things that we had stated from the very beginning, right, was that we would not sell alcohol. You would not do lottery tickets. And so I'm not saying that that is what the community is going to the store for anyway. But, I think it's also those things that you have to take into consideration. And so when you look at it not really working in the sense, there were just a number of factors that you have to lay out on the table to consider as to why that particular business model did not work at that particular point in time. Not saying that it won't work going forward. Hopefully we're on the better end of the economy and things are just getting a little bit better, but there are a number of options and opportunities on the table. But also to talk about the value of it, Prophet DJ Quick said, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And also it's greatly to consider that the city is getting a building it's for less than half its value. So
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Johnson, carry on, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm still laughing about the lyrics. That was smooth, Jordan. I had two quick questions. I appreciate the discussion by council. But to Deputy Mayor Felix's point, when we're talking about looking at different parameters, different variables, one I was looking at was the lease with Brevard Health Alliance, and I look at the amount of $1,100. Back in November 2022. And I feel, and I want to hear feedback from others. I feel that number's a little low, for what that area, what that could be. I definitely, if we do move forward, I would like for staff to look at that and make sure we're at a reasonable rate. But if y'all want to speak on it, you can, but that's just something I want to put out there because I heard where Deputy Mayor Felix was going. The only other thing I wanted to ask, just publicly, does this contract include, items within the building?
Councilman Johnson, one of the things that the board obviously considered was if it is the desire of the city to move forward in the contractual negotiation process, then obviously that's something on the table. The board, I think we're pretty clear from our meeting that the fixtures, such as the items that belong in the kitchen and things like that, if you decide to lease to another nonprofit who can provide those particular services, we think that it would not be financially feasible for them to go out and actually have to acquire those. And so those particular items, such as the fixtures in the kitchen, the commercial oven, all that, would actually be a part of the facility. Now, there were some other particular items such as TVs and things like that. It was our desire and in our interest to potentially see if there were any other nonprofits in the community who could benefit from having those items. But to answer your question, the commercial kitchen stuff, yes, wholeheartedly, that would stay there in the facility. But some of those other items we would like to discuss with the city if you move forward to see if some of the other nonprofits would benefit from having those.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate you answering elaborately. So Mayor, I would like for us to look into that, utilizing that. Who knows, whatever nonprofit might go in, they might be doing culinary classes or, something of that nature, or providing the same thing we're looking for, hot foods. So we have an opportunity to have that right there ready for them upon, like turnkey. I don't think we should give it up if we have a chance to get it. So I would like that to be included with staff to look into that. And I understand there are things that you would like as well. So we just work through it. Everybody wins, the community wins, and we can move forward. So,
you touched on that Brevard Health Alliance. What are they providing there? Is it more conference space, or are they actually providing medical services for the citizens?
They are providing medical services.
Yeah, so it is a partnership. As I mentioned before, there's an intangible value that they're providing. There's still $1,100, but most people don't have that health insurance that they could go somewhere else. Am I understanding this correctly?
So Brevard Health Alliance, from my understanding, is they do accept some insurances, but they do have more people with the sliding scale. So if they do not have insurance, they're able to go to Brevard Health Alliance and at least get those primary care visits completed and referrals.
And are they there Monday through Friday, or is it just specifically certain days a week?
I believe it's Monday through Friday. Yes, Monday through Friday.
Okay, so there's a value to that. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the value is correct.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's all.
Yes, sir. I got you. All right. Any other questions? All right. So, speaker cards.
Number 4. Is it 4? Mr. Batten?
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. The Evans Center is another identity within the city of Palm Bay that was a goodwill gesture type approach, which is a lot of what the nonprofit organizations are by my standard. I understand the value that they carry, but it was one of the identities that when we're trying to say where we donate funds and money to, that we contributed within the city of Palm Bay, we contributed funds towards the Evans Center to help them succeed. Well, here we are with a failure. Now that's history, and it's been a repeated history failure within that identity. I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying if it's a bad business concept or what, but I'm saying that we did take the city's money and we did contribute towards their identity. Right? That being said, could this building and location, these 4 lots, be sold to another identity other than the city of Palm Bay that would generate a revenue back into the city as a business instead of a charitable organization that takes money out of the city? I'm not saying that their benefits aren't warranted, but I'm just looking at saying what brings in the bottom dollar. We're looking at where we're having to apply for grants to hire firefighters. Well, at some point, we have to decide what the priority of the city was. So you decide, right? Now, when they start looking at the market that failed, I understand that. If they can't compete, then the business ultimately fails because eventually people will stop contributing towards their requests. That's what happens. But if you look at every corner now, we have a Dollar General, and every one of the Dollar Generals is currently carrying a market within the Dollar General. So that's what you're now competing against with that type of setup within this, if you keep that same process. That being said, they've always been an asset in society type appreciation within the city of Palm Bay, but for the business side of it and for the financial impact that it could have on the city, I'd much rather see a business there that generates funds coming back to the city instead of us paying out in charitable means. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The public comment for this item.
Okay. So, gentlemen, I guess well, before we do a motion, here's Councilman Johnson. I just wanted to share a thought here. I love the opportunity for if we're going down this path, to have programs that will provide a discipline to, and I'm going by my own experiences, right? I'm going by programs that would create a discipline for our youth. I understand that the kitchen aspect of it. I understand providing, a deli portion of it. But part of that, it being a community center, because that's what we're really talking about at this point. If council was to move forward in this particular case, it would be, for me, more of a community center and investment in our youth to create an atmosphere of similar to a safe haven for neighborhood individuals, right? To come in and provide mentorship, those type of programs that can literally change the course of a life. And that's where I'm comfortable at. I'm not sure the deli aspect of it is a way forward with that space. And I know that there's several groups out there that might want to participate. We do have law enforcement that can participate in that arena. We have different, Club Esteem was another one that I remember. There's some literacy programs that can provide services like that. So that's where I'm at. I'm not sure about the food aspect of it. I would rather council look at it holistically as, why are we doing this? And if we're going down this path, let us roll up the sleeves, so to speak, and address why we're going down this path. It's to provide a venue for the neighborhood to get services to save our youth, to mentor our youth, to provide a venue where these children can have a future, such as mentorship. But I'm willing to hear your thoughts on these things as well.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize and approve a budget allocation of $500,000 and authorize the city manager to negotiate a purchase contract and closing with the Evans Center Incorporated to acquire 4 parcels to include items inside the Evans Center, not to exceed $500,000.
Even the TVs?
Like I said, just negotiations to include.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to piggyback off you, Mayor, because I'm in agreement. What I would like for us to do is something similar, and also let's make sure we learn from, our previous history, but something similar to what we did with ARPA funding, and do just like a request for information. We have the property, but let's see what other nonprofits are willing to do or what they can do. I do not want us to give this property back. Like I said, we want to learn from the past, but I think the opportunity for that is just, hey, bring us your best, show us what you got. All right, there might be one that can provide hot foods still. There might be another one that can do a little bit of both, but we don't know unless we open the door and allow people to bring in their input and bring in their suggestions. So I'm right there with you, sir, but I don't want to, alienate it just the mentorship when there also is what we're hearing from the community survey is they need a place to eat. So I just want to be open with it, but I'm right there with you. So if that's something we got to give staff direction to look into and to make happen, I'm for it. Or if I need to amend my motion, I'll definitely do so to include that as well. But I'm right there.
Deputy Mayor, you second the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Johnson, I think you're correct, and I think that's a fair way to go about this process. Certainly, there's no doubt that we need to move forward in the purchase of the building. How we utilize it is the $1 million question, right? That's one way. As I'm sitting here listening, I'm thinking of organization that has a proving record nationally to have a model that work is the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, we have one in the neighboring city on the north. Why not have a conversation, get them part of the conversation as well? They have a proving model that works, that pretty much include all the services, pretty much what we just shared here. Mayor, you share your heart as to what the Boys and Girls Club is all about. So some of the services, that's pretty much what I wanted to mention. As we move forward, I think that could be a model that we consider, put an RFP out. Also, maybe reach out to organizations that we know that have a model that's already proving to work for the communities they're in. Should probably reach out to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm 100% in agreement with you. It's property that we should own and help that area, the youth in that area. It's got a long history of helping the youth. That was spoken to us today. We got the health allowance there that can help the citizens, the senior citizens, or the people who, even youth who don't have the health insurance or can't get medical services. There's so much thing we could do with that property. I'll leave it up to the staff to come up with creative ways. I'm not going to dictate or suggest, but I think we need to take advantage of this and make it a positive for the community. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Foster. I've got a motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We are now on presentations. Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. So The presentation we have for you tonight is going to be regarding the conversation that we've been having for quite some time regarding a study that actually the City commissioned with East Central Florida Regional Planning Council to really take a look at the compound, look at the existing land uses, look at some ideas for development out there. And so we have a representative of East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, Brenda Defoe Supranant is here. Supranant, thank you. I tried. We welcome her to present this item for us, and then following her presentation, Deputy City Manager Joan Ucala Brown will potentially add some other comments as well.
Okay. Is it going to be displayed? Okay. So as you just mentioned, my name is Brenda Defoe Supranant. I am the Director of Planning for the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. We are, oh, thank you very much. I'll probably use this one. I'm actually here on behalf of my colleague, Luis Nuiz. He's the one who actually authored this study. And at the end of the slide, his information is there. If you guys have any technical questions, I would defer to him on those. So to begin, I'm going to briefly go over the context, the methodology, and then the recommendations that came out of the report. So as I said, I'm from the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. If you're not familiar with us, we are one of 10 regional planning councils in the state. We provide technical assistance to our 8 member counties and the cities within those counties, cities like Palm Bay. Generally speaking, we do a lot of reports like these, but we also do things like community outreach. We author a lot of vulnerability assessments. You are the recipient of one of those vulnerability assessments as well. So those are the types of work and studies that we take part in. So the context for the compound is one that is not unique to Palm Bay. There are several large pre-platted communities across the state of Florida. Some of the largest ones are noted on the slide, and they include Cape Coral, Lehigh Acres in Lee County, and the Murdoch Village community in Charlotte. The Regional Planning Council conducted a literature review and found that all these communities are still struggling to address these problems. So the existing conditions for the benefit of the audience include these pre-platted properties, as I mentioned previously. They were developed using a curvilinear street pattern, and that impedes efficient connection between the different lots. It's also important to note that there are currently no north-south connections within the area. The consequence is that large portions of the development are isolated from the rest of the city. There are over 2,700 unique property owners within the compound, and the average lot size is less than an acre. And the parcel ownership is scattered throughout the plat, which limits opportunities for lot aggregation, and some of that can be seen on the graphic on the screen. So based on these existing conditions, the Regional Planning Council developed a concept plan and focused on 4 major areas. One of those is the availability of large parcels. The other is the continuous property ownership. The other is surrounding land uses and what are the opportunities to connect the infrastructure. Based on this methodology, there were 3 main focus areas that came out of that, and that informed the recommendations that you will see in a later slide. Okay, so in the Northeast quadrant, one of the opportunities is to develop a new employment center. This is probably the most suitable area for this type of development because it contains several large continuous property owners, or several large continuous properties owned by a few property owners, including the city of Palm Bay. J.A. Bombardier Boulevard provides direct access to several of these properties, and there are utility connections nearby. An industrial user, BRP, is already located in this area. Okay. Another opportunity focuses on conservation. The west side of the compound is probably most inaccessible in the plats. The largest property owner is Melbourne Tillman Water Control District, which owns about 247 acres. Most of these properties are wetlands that protect the city from heavy flooding. The area is already bounded by Three Forks Conservation Area on the west and agricultural land on the south. So based on these characteristics, the recommendation is that this is designated as a conservation area. It would provide recreational opportunities for the city's residents, including walking trails, biking, camping, and other similar activities. The next opportunity involves mixed use centers. Again, because one of the challenges is the lack of the north-south connection, working with DOT would probably be integral to this plan or this opportunity. And one of the things you'd want to do there is potentially expand St. John's Heritage Parkway. We also compared how the proposed routes would align with the compound. And so if a road were to be built, it would open potentially 2 new areas for redevelopment. And the first one is the block of properties located just south of the northeast quadrant. The city of Palm Bay already owns several large parcels that comprise about 15 acres of land within this opportunity. And it could serve as an expansion for the northeast quadrant industrial center. There would potentially also be an opportunity for redevelopment on the southern part of the compound. The biggest parcel is 47 acres and owned by Palinum Associates, and the city owns about 33 acres divided across 15 parcels. And so for the Northeast Corridor, one of the recommendations is changing the entitlements. So that recommendation would involve looking at the large city-owned parcels and moving them to industrial potentially. Another recommendation would be to focus on efforts to acquire smaller lots within the vicinity of J.A. Bombardier Boulevard. This would help protect the industrial park from residential intrusion. Single-family homes are not compatible in this area, so if they were established, they would hinder the area's potential as an employment center. Acquiring these lots would also provide more flexibility for the design of the new industrial park. To assist with the process, the city joined the RPC in applying for an EPA Brownfields assessment grant. If funded, the grant would help assess the Northeast Quadrant properties for contamination. And the Regional Planning Council could also potentially look for other grants to support infrastructure improvements. And in the future, the city should also consider leveraging the land it owns to recruit the development of a firm that would help operate the industrial park. So that's another consideration within that corridor. For the recommendation for conservation, the RPC recommends that the city partner with the Water Tillman District and other entities to continue acquiring environmentally sensitive lands. As mentioned previously, some of these lands already help with flooding. I know that's a big issue in Brevard County. And so that's one way you could do that. As a policy measure, the city should also incorporate this area into the parks master plan because that would help with comprehensive plan planning and meeting recreation and open space requirements. In order to protect property rights, the recommendation would be to explore the adoption of transfer development rights, TDRs, an ordinance to do that might help. And it would also potentially allow the largest property owners to increase the density of development in other sections of the compound that are better suited for development, such as mixed use districts or the employment center expansion. And so for the mixed use and employment center expansion, the recommendation would be to coordinate with DOT again. It's also worth noting that there's no infrastructure to kind of sustain the current land use pattern. So again, partnering with DOT would help with that. The Space Coast TPO, and that would help fast track development of St. John's Heritage Parkway. You'd also need to decide where to designate land for utilities such as FPL, potentially a substation to bring electricity to the area. And one of the ways you might be able to pay for all the improvements would be to establish a special assessment or a community district within the mixed use district Both of them would need approval from the largest property owners. And that is all I have for you. As I said, I'm giving this on behalf of Luis Nieves Ruiz. He's our Economic Development Director. I defer to the city at this time. And if you do have any technical questions, Luis would be the one to ask.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, make sure you thank Luis for us. I think she wants
You have
us to ask technical questions to Luis, but
I mean,
carry
I
on.
will do my best, but he's really the one who dug into the weeds of this. So I would not be able to offer you very specific answers outside of the recommendations.
Yeah.
So I would,
Councilman
again,
Johnson,
I would defer
go
to
ahead.
the city staff
Yeah.
and what is feasible within your administrative processes.
Councilman Johnson.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I'll re-engage you a little differently. But I'm encouraged because some of these things are things we're already working on. City initiated rezoning, looking at industrial parks or flex use. I remember previous council, I brought it up, that Palm Bay has the potential to have a Silicon Valley, and that council laughed at me. And I still see it as potential, right here. Like, yes, we don't have the space industry in our backyard, but they need a place to build.
Not yet.
Not yet. Exactly. They need a place to build. They're going to have to expand. And this is a perfect opportunity. Two things I wanted to highlight. We're talking about FPL. We already have solar farms here. Was that something discussed either by staff or? That's one thing I want to bring up, solar farms. Another thing I wanted to bring up was we spoke about opportunity zones. And the compound was one being, initially looked at. And we have somebody who went up there to DC as well. Deputy Mayor Felix and our deputy city manager went up there, but so did members from the EDC. They went up there and also kind of advocated on Palm Bay's behalf of the compound being an opportunity zone as well. I hate to put you on the spot, sir, but could you speak on that and how those discussions went? Because I think the discussions we had, I think it's important for the rest of council to know so we can move forward collectively in the right direction. So thank you, sir.
So good evening, I guess is what I should say. Let me do this right. David
State
Jones.
your name, yes, sir.
Yeah, David Jones, 1107 Merrick Avenue.
That you could bring up the whole podium. It says height. Just push the height. Yeah. There you
Y'all
go.
are
sir.
fancy.
Yes.
So at the chamber, we have to lean over. We don't have. Yes, we spoke. I am the chairman of the board for the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce, and I also sit on the board of the Economic Development Commission for the Space Coast, representing the Palm Bay Chamber. And we recently went to Washington, D.C. To advocate on continuing to make sure that we are heavily favored to bring industries into the Space Coast. We continue that economic growth. And Palm Bay is instrumental into that because we have something that not everybody else has in that space. And so while we had other initiatives that we were up there for specifically, one of the things that we operate as a chamber and do is we like to advocate on behalf of our members. And being that you all are such amazing members of ours for the chamber, city manager, deputy city manager were able to provide us with some information for us to go and advocate on behalf for the city. We met with Governor Scott Rubio and Congressman Posey's team just to
You mean
let them-
Senator Scott, correct?
Sorry. Yeah, I said governor, didn't I?
Yes.
Nope. There you go. Maybe no. Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, and Congressman Posey's team, just to let them know that from the business community's perspective, we do believe that them supporting legislation to turn these areas into an opportunity zone, we would support that as well. And they were very happy to hear that the business community was behind your efforts as well. So it was a really good meeting. I know that we have a meeting coming up with the city manager to discuss further more in detail to what those conversations look like, and as well as how can the chamber continue to support you all and advocate on behalf of what makes sense to grow our economic development down here on the south part of the county.
That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thanks for stepping up on such short notice, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Council, any other questions of our presenter? No. Thank you, ma'am. We realize the technical questions should be addressed too.
If you want to talk about resilience, I can answer questions all day about that, but economic development is Luis's jam, so I defer to him.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. All right.
And
have a
that's
good
where I
evening.
remembered you from.
The mirror, right?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
yeah, it just clicked for me too.
Ma'am.
It's good to see you again.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you guys have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. So now, council, part of this, Madam Sherman, did you want to go into your presentation?
Well, actually, I'm going to defer to Joan to give a little bit of a highlight of some of the next steps we've been talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Evening again, Council. Just a quick overview of how we got to where we are with this study. So in early 2022, the city had requested a memorandum of understanding with East Central Florida Regional Planning Council to conduct an economic development strategic plan citywide. And that strategic plan focused on several areas through the city where commercial and industrial growth is prime. What it didn't cover in great detail was the compound, and at council's request, we went forward and requested an addendum to particularly study the area of the compound. And so tonight you saw the presentation. It's provided kind of an overview of the land use analysis report of the area known as the compound, which is Port Malabar units 51, 52, 53. And the report and the task order covers several areas. That's the existing land use analysis, the case study analysis, looking at various areas throughout the state that have the same challenges, and then provided final recommendations and a report. So a lot of what we saw in the existing uses and the existing conditions of the study are much of what we've already covered at the March 2023 council workshop, which is a variety of challenges that span from things like access to the compound, lack of infrastructure, utilities, electrical, a variety of different landowners. I think it's 2,700 unique landowners in the compound, spanning over 4,900, nearly 5,000 properties in the compound. So a lot of that was covered in the study as well. That much of that we already knew. What the report yielded, which again covers a lot of what we talked about at the last workshop, but reinforces much of what the city would like to accomplish. It talks about a variety of recommendations that get us to where we are today, to where we'd like to be, which is the development of the compound in such a way that brings more commercial and industrial, and then also plays to the strengths of the compound in terms of conservation and recreational use. And so just to summarize really quickly, a bullet list of the recommendations that came out of the study through the various quadrants. Those include the land entitlement changes, city-initiated administrative zoning of parcels, land acquisition specifically along J.A. Bombardier Boulevard Southwest, targeted investment in infrastructure along the same corridor, adoption of a transfer of development rights ordinance, dedication of land for a future FPL substation, establishment of a special assessment or community development district, incorporating the westernmost segment of the compound in the parks master plan to meet our concurrency for open space and recreation in our comp plan, and coordination with the Regional Planning Council on a brownfields assessment grant to help not only to help us assess our properties, to also incentivize developers that are looking to develop in the compound by helping provide a phase 1 or phase 2 environmental site assessment. Additionally, it recommends continuing to fast track our conversations with FDOT and Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization for the future southward extension of the St. John's Heritage Parkway, leveraging city land to recruit a development firm to create and operate an industrial park. And another item that wasn't really touched in the study, but is something that we've talked about in the past and we're willing to explore in conversation tonight, is eminent domain. And so with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So, ma'am, I just wanted to, I'm really excited about these recommendations, right? In particular, when you start talking about a light industrial park and the opportunity to get those grants for brownfield opportunities where other companies won't have to invest in that if we've already done that study. So that would be enticing to businesses as well. So that's what's motivating me regarding this. As far as everything on that list seems like it's an approach that we need to, it's a tool in our belt, so to speak. And I think that's important. The more tools we have, the greater opportunity is that we could actually start gearing some light industrial park in that avenue. And you build it, they will come. I truly believe that. And if we start building that infrastructure, that's going to start coming. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's field of dreams, but I believe in that. So I'm really motivated about each and every one of those recommendations. I won't even eliminate any of those. They should all be part of the discussion because it is a tool in our belt to move forward within what we're trying to achieve. You talked a little bit on, you touched about it in building an infrastructure. We've got the land where we could, listen, we could, NASA's going to tap Palm Bay for our mission to Mars, right? So I think this is going in that direction, creating jobs is something that's near and dear to my heart, to have the opportunity to have Palm Bayers live, work, and play right here in this great city, right? So as far as each and every one of these gentlemen, I'm really encouraged. I appreciate all the hard work. I appreciate everyone's input in this. And I think we're moving towards ultimately a goal to create that infrastructure that's so needed out there. And I said this before, ma'am, I said, the onus is on us. We own that property. We should be looking at ways to encourage others to come, but we should be responsible for what we own out there. And this is a step in that direction, gentlemen. This is how my thoughts are on that.
I have something.
Yes, sir, Councilman Foster.
Can you elaborate on eminent domain? How would that play a part in, because it's a lot of property out there.
I would be happy to share the knowledge I have, but I would ultimately like to lean on our city attorney's office to provide greater input on the mechanisms of getting to that point and the due process that's involved. But when it comes to eminent domain, you certainly you can't just obtain other private properties for any purpose. It must provide a public purpose. And we could look at, and just to use an example, the smaller single family lots along Bombardier that are where the utilities dead ends. If we were to obtain those parcels, whether it's through eminent domain or otherwise, you could use that for right-of-way expansion, utilities. That's an example of a public benefit. That's an example of a way we could use eminent domain. Beyond that, I hesitate to answer any more on eminent domain.
City attorney, can you comment on that?
Our deputy city manager, because we've had this conversation in Florida. We've, after Keto, as far as United States case law, allowed eminent domain to be used for economic development. The elimination of blight is inconsistent with really how Florida looks at private property rights. So we make sure we as a legislator to change our statute to be clear that economic development, this elimination of blight, is not something that eminent domain can be used for. So if we're using it for something that has to do with utilities, for roads, for parks, those things that we could certainly do, but we couldn't just take a bunch of properties for economic development. In other words, we have a bunch of individually owned properties that aggregate them all together and then give them to a private entity. That we would not be able to do.
Okay, I just want to make that clear when we're talking about eminent domain. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Bill Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. I enjoyed the presentation. I also enjoyed going through the packet. There was a lot of good input there. I see a little bit of effort was put into that, which a lot of effort was put into that. And I appreciate the ability to do research. All right. Now it generates a couple of questions. The first one was, is the city considering doing any startup out there with the own property that you have? We call that seed starting. So if we start something out there, that has a tendency to bring people in, but that means the city has to be willing to do that on their own. So that was the first question. Did you have any plans of seed starting in the area? The second one was when I was looking at the parks and open space requirement that they're looking at, because that's a big chunk of land that's there, and it does adjoin the Three Forks Preserve. But in order to access the Three Forks Preserve, which is the county's big water preserve along the St. Johns River in that area, it's a very big established space. But in order to do that, to access the Three Forks Preserve, as I'm looking through this packet, you would have to build a bridge to access it because it's surrounded by the canals for the flood management area. So you have to build a bridge. So that's one thing we're looking at. Well, Bill Batten, being the idiot that he is, I went back in 32908, the area code where the compound is at. We just took $2 million out of that area and gave it to another identity, which is not in 32908 where the compound is located. So we use the resource that we need to establish the compound. If we want to use the parks and recreation area like is being proposed, we use that money to build a bridge where there was already transportation access in the Fred Poppy Park. So we lost that resource that we had already accumulated and already had available to spend in this area. So that being said, keep thinking about when you take the money from Peter to pay Paul, that eventually Peter gets hungry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Kenneth Bullivant.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name's Ken Bullivant, 3239 Telesco Road Southeast. I am kind of maybe someone you might have seen. I'm with the BARK group, B-A-R-K, the Brevard Alliance of Rescuing Canines, out in the compound. I thoroughly enjoyed the dream of possibly what's going to happen out there. We know we have humans. What is the plan to have the area taken care of now? And that's an important thing because I've been in the community for 2.5 years. I remember this past Christmas, the 2 boys that were found out there. And it's not something as simple as putting the police out there because they can't. They have responsibilities in the populated areas. I get that. I live out towards Babcock and Cogan. And I did notice the city did put in a solar-powered video camera. Why can't stuff like that start being put out on the limited entry and exit points at the compound? That way, at least the police, if something did happen, if they were able to get some kind of information, they would have somewhere to start their investigation. Hopefully, us as a group that go out there on the weekends and when we do drive out through the compound, will help kind of deter people from doing whatever they're doing, especially dumping off their animals or preventing, whatever else is happening. I know there's a lot of environmental dumping being done out there. We walk the place all the time. We see paint cans dumped. So that's going right into the environment. So that's something that might need to be addressed in your plan, that we see it all the time. Trucks dumping off fences. We see it all. So like I said, I just want to introduce myself and I want to say we're here. We want to help you guys. We want to try to improve our community and we're here to help rescue the animals and hopefully establish Palm Bay as a humanitarian, animal loving town and drive on with it and work with the community. So thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thank you for what you do. And I share, I'm sure I share the sentiment for the rest of council. Anyone that would abandon a pet when they have an opportunity to take that pet to a shelter, that is inhumane. Whether it's at the compound or throughout the entire county, right? Because that's going on throughout the entire county. But you asked the question regarding cameras. Madam Sherman, did you want to make a statement regarding cameras?
I would just say we appreciate the input. We have been adding cameras in different places strategically throughout the city. So
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
I just noticed where mine was located. So
It's classified.
not when it's right on the side of the road, but
It's classified. But thank you. Really appreciate what you do for our citizens out there.
thank you for letting
and
us
our-
help the
our
community.
pets. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us help the community.
Next speaker.
Mr. James Penfold.
Thank you, Mayor, and the rest of the council. I'm also with Bark, and we're trying to do our best to prevent crime out in that area. And again, touching base on those cameras, if we could have cameras at entrances and exits, we could stop all that dumping. People dump their whole houses out there. People dump bodies out there. People leave animals abandoned out there. And anything that we can do as a community to make the community safer, I think we should take any steps possible that we can. And cameras are great. We can catch people, get their tagged information, start an investigation, so forth, so on. But yeah, I really like to see if the community could do more to try to make the compound safe before all this developing happens, because what's going to happen until it actually gets developed, the same things are going to continue to cycle over and over and over again. People shooting off guns, people are out there with their families, riding four-wheelers around. Let's try to make it safe for those people that go out there with their kids and the community that's around it. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mayor, this concludes public comment.
Okay. Council, what is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. Councilman Johnson.
The only thing I would like to add, since we spoke about eminent domain, and I'll just put it out there. The main thing I see the emphasis that we could apply eminent domain is the expansion of the St. John Heritage Parkway, because that's going to be a public use for everybody. So making sure we can connect it and free up and alleviate traffic in the city of Palm Bay, but also provide
utilities.
Yep.
Um,
Same. So that's what we're looking at. I just want to make it clear so there's no, misinterpretation of what's being looked at by this council. So it's only things that are of a public use, utilities, St. John Heritage Parkway, and that does actually provide an economic impact, because those companies that might want to look at that area, once they see they'll have access to and from where they need to go, that'll help out everybody. So that's all, Mayor.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, you seconded the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much to add except, just supporting what you said as far as I think every single bullet points here has a lot of value. Certainly you mentioned the light industrial. I think that's super important. And the idea of us throwing the first stone, right? We own quite a bit of property, over 2.some% of the properties out there. We should really take the lead and show good faith as to the rest of the business community. Those are my comments, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I agree. These recommendations are, the way I look at it, a tool in the toolbox for our city management team to actually negotiate and be able to move forward in creating that light industrial park. I really have to commend the Brownfields grant, because I think that's going to prove such an added feature as a company, not, being able to not have to go and do that study, the Brownfield study, and that could be enticing for any company, right? So those are my comments. Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with you 100%. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. This council has, or the next council will have, to really change the future of Palm Bay, a brighter future. So the speakers, came up and talking about people dumping dogs and dead bodies, and I can almost guarantee most of them people doing that don't even live in Palm Bay. I don't think they're Palm Bay residents. But we have an opportunity to change that direction, and we need to go forward with that. And an opportunity, like you said, Mayor, with the space industry and the military industry and the business. I wanted to speak on eminent domain because that's something we're going to have to. That's a big elephant in the room. I believe we're going to have to. It's going to be a block. I think it's going to be a roadblock for us, but we're going to have to do. That's the tough job. We're going to have to take some property rights to make it better for everybody. So I just wanted to get that clear, and I think we did. That's all I have, man.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 4-0. We are now on public comments. Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Bill Batten.
You messed all my paperwork up with all this jumping around. Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. I don't know if anybody saw this in Southern Living. I don't know how many people pay attention to that type of stuff, but it's the country life that I like. But either way, Palm Bay made Southern Living. If they're aware of it, look at the article. Out of 25 cities, we are ranked number 13 for the fastest growing and the most unique economical growth area. So that's a pretty good accomplishment. But as I'm reading the article, what I thought was very strange, very unique about it was it focused in on unspoiled natural nature and fishing. No place in that article, when it's talking about how beautiful Palm Bay was, did it say anything about how many apartments and houses could you jam onto any single acre to make the city of Palm Bay look good with that natural growth and natural beauty that we want to see. That's what attracting people to this area. So that being said, the main purpose of Palm Bay is not to see how many apartment buildings and how many high rises you can put on and how close you can put a home when people are focusing in on the nature. So that being said, remember, we have to keep some of the beauty in order to keep the city a beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Miss Lisa Jackson.
I'm freezing. It is so cold here.
Yes, ma'am. Carry on.
I'm getting there. It's going to be a repeat of what he just said.
Speak into the mic, please.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hello. Lisa Jackson, 589 Trumpet Street, Southwest. I'm here tonight to speak for the trees and address two interrelated issues: lot clearing and building permits. And I recently sent an email with exciting news that Palm Bay has been recognized by Southern Living magazine as one of the top rising cities in 2024. We ranked number 25. The magazine states our fishing and unspoiled nature have long been the draw of the Space Coast town. Also, a major development project called Ashton Park will add thousands of homes and 5 million square feet of retail and commercial space here. This is huge. Being on the map and getting noticed is fortuitous, yet also has its issues. We have valuable natural resources here, including our wildlife, trees, beautiful environment, and abundant outdoor activities, and we need to protect them. So, as the developers and outside companies have great ideas on how to improve and expand our city, I'd like to address two particular areas of concern with all these improvements: lot clearing and building permits. First, Building Code number 180.04 under Tree Preservation and Removal Part 1 states that if the lot is under 1 acre, the new lot owner can clear it without a permit. This is actually an exception in the building code pertaining to trees, Ordinance 94-03, passed in February of '94. From my observation, most of the residential lots in Palm Bay are under 1 acre, so no permits are required for this exception. Yet under the same provision, the city finds that trees are valuable to our community. We need them. In Part 2 of the Tree Preservation and Removal Code at number 180.26, General Provisions, this is landscaping, lots smaller than 1 acre in size must have 4 trees and 10 shrubs. This is Ordinance 94-15, which passed in July of '94. My proposal: to amend or remove number 3 of Code 180.04 exception for lots with less than 1 acre and require permits to clear all lots 1 acre or less. If we followed the landscaping code 180.26, trees and shrubs would remain on the lots and excessive clearing would stop. The second proposal: in addition to amending the permit requirement, I would add a moratorium on when trees can be cleared on a lot. Just as we have turtle season at the beach to protect their habitat during nesting season, we also have endangered turtles inland. I propose a moratorium on lot clearing from January to April to give our wildlife a chance to thrive during their nesting season. Also, for the building permits, another lot was cleared in my neighborhood recently. Then a for sale sign appeared with a building permit posted. Caldwell Community LLC, a company based in Colorado, is operating here and bought the lot to put a spec house on it for about $300,000. These companies are buying and selling our city lots for profit, and they're raising our tax base with these exorbitant prices. I propose an ordinance be created to prevent out-of-state companies from
Thank you,
purchasing
ma'am.
neighborhood lots with the intention of building spec houses. Thanks for your
Thank you.
time.
Next speaker.
Mr. Stice.
Good evening, Robert Stice, 1796 Winbrook Drive. I want to talk briefly about the CPP meeting we had last Thursday that you may or may not know. Basically, we had about 200 or more Palm Bay, Bayside Lakes residents that show up for the meeting. The planner was there, and basically we heard up front that he wasn't taking any questions at all. So the process went on of what they were going to do, and in different areas. Basically, you're looking at about 700 homes. Okay. Then it got a little bit contentious because I thought with a CPP meeting, you should be allowed to ask questions. First, he said that he wasn't taking any questions, and then after that, he started answering questions, and people got frustrated, and the whole thing imploded. I heard comments of this was a disaster. It was a dumpster fire. It was outdoors. It was getting windy. There was limited bathroom facilities or what have you. Had this been a Bayside Lakes Theater, we'd put 350 people in there. Okay. So let's look at 700 homes real quick. 700 homes times 2 drivers is 1,400 vehicles, 300 yards from one of the worst L-shaped areas or turns outside my HOA. Okay. 1,400 vehicles. 2.8 residents per home is 1,960 folks, just 300 yards, again, away from this. Where does this make sense for everybody? For anybody? The infrastructure is not there. Okay, you have a dangerous area that the city itself was gracious enough to do a traffic study and recognize the issue that's there. So you have infrastructure, you already got about 3,500 people at Bayside Lakes. This is a disaster. You must keep the current zoning. And you're putting apartments, there was a request for apartments there. You know, we went from 367 homes, and now we're at 701. And we had a unanimous vote from the zoning as well as the city. I'm just not understanding this. And I just think if you're going to have a planner up there or anybody up there, we need to go in the facility because the red shirts are not going away. We don't want to devastate the situation, the quality of life at Bayside Lakes. So I know this is not going to zoning probably until August and September, but try to keep this the irons hot on this one. So please consider this. This is just not good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mrs. Santa Isabel Wright.
Good evening, Council, the Chairman, Santa Isabel Wright, 858 Brisbane Street Northeast. I'm here as President of the Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm here on behalf of some of the people that have been applying for licenses and business BTRs in Palm Bay recently. I have had several complaints about how difficult the software is to maneuver and fill out. The lack of connectivity as going back and forth if you need to change information or update it. It's very difficult and it's not user-friendly at all. I'm here specifically on a company that is trying to move into Palm Bay. They have attempted to open their business. Right now they're renting a home because they're in the process of building a home. Their landlord refuses to give them permission to use their address to open their business. We in Palm Bay have the ordinance that states you cannot use a physical address like a PO box, a quick mailbox or anything like that. I think that law is very antiquated and we need to look at something like Melbourne has, which charges $61.25 for you to open your business using a place like the Quick Stop, where you can open up a PO box with a physical address and you can start your business. I think that ordinance needs to be updated, looked at, and discussed because we are losing small businesses from coming from Palm Bay. This family, had they known prior to building their home here that they could not open their business, they would not have invested $450,000 in their home. So I think that as a council, you guys need to look at this like ASAP as more people are moving here, more people have home-based businesses that are really mobile businesses. And I think that is something that needs to be talked about. And that's it. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir. I've taken a note on that and we will definitely check into that. It's a good
Thank you.
question.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Mr. Butch Oren.
Butch Oren, 219 Trenton Avenue. First thing, last night and this afternoon too, there was a big news presentation on our up and coming hurricane season. They're predicting 23 storms, 5 major, and they're kind of saying they're coming this way. And it's both the Colorado and the European models. Yes, that's predicting that. So with knowing that's coming, are we going to get ahead of this drainage problem that we have in the neighborhoods? I mean, I know it's a slow process and these guys work as hard as they can. They bust their ass every day. They're out there. But we need to get pushing on it before we have these 5 major storms come through. And they're blaming it on El Nino and all the other stuff, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of rain. The other thing is an update on the possible pedestrian warning sign out here at the Minton exit where where the library road is at. It's really something that's needed. I mean, there's folks in wheelchairs that try to get across the road and our courtesy drivers here in Palm Bay just don't let it happen. They just keep going. There was a lady, she was blind and had her little walking stick. Nobody would let her get by. So if that light was there, it would at least draw the attention, say, hey, here's somebody trying to get across the street. Can you let her go? And the last thing, and I've tried calling AT&T, I've tried calling FP&L. There's a switch box, for lack of anything else to call it, and it's on San Luis between Wilmette and Trenton Avenue. The door is completely off the thing. All the wires are exposed. Rain can get in there. Animals get in there and eat that wire up. They like to chew on wire. And it has, the only thing I could find as far as an ID for it, it says 373.
What kind of box is that? A
It's
electrical box or
well, it looks
FPL?
like it's a switch box for like your internet
Telephone?
and telephones.
The telephone?
Yeah, because it's that real thin wire.
Okay, so Bell South or whatever.
It says AT&T. Yeah.
Okay.
But I tried getting a hold of AT&T. They act like I don't know what I'm talking about. They don't know what they're talking about, so I don't know who's at fault there. The other thing is, go South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Sherman?
Yes, sir. So regarding the drainage issues,
Yes.
as council knows, we recently brought an item to you to bring some additional equipment and staffing forward. At the April 18th council meeting, we have a full presentation from the Public Works team about all of the efforts that are needed to bring the system, the stormwater system, into a different place of operation. I know in this dry season, the team has been working very, very hard to get through the city and catch up on all the backlog of work orders from last year's intense rains that we had. And I've seen the evidence all around the city, so they're doing the very best they can with the resources they have now. But part of the 18th conversation will be about additional resources, funding limitations, and what we kind of want to recommend for priorities going forward. Regarding the pedestrian warning light, we certainly have been talking about that, but I don't have an official update for you. Certainly it's on our list and our radar. It's something that is necessary and needed to look at. And I believe our team made a note of the AT&T Old Bell South infrastructure, so we'll take a look at that. And we have contacts with those companies because they're constantly doing work in the right of way, so we can probably find the right person to help with that.
Thank you, ma'am. Deputy Mayor, does that conclude the public?
Yes, Mayor.
Or the public comments?
Yes.
All right, sir. So we're now on consent.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Motion to adopt all consent agenda item with the exception of number 13.
13. Is that it, sir?
That's it.
Councilman,
Second.
wish to pull? Okay, I got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. I just want to recognize Chef Fabricio from Trattoria Bella. Chef Fabricio, your item was just passed. So thank you for being in the audience. We are now on public hearings, item number 1.
Mayor.
Oh,
If I may,
as you
please.
were, ma'am. Carry on.
Resolution 2024-11, a resolution of City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, adopting a statewide mutual aid agreement between the City of Palm Bay and the State of Florida, providing for an effective date. Resolution 2024-12, a resolution of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, authorizing the city manager and police chief to execute a concurrent enforcement zone interlocal mutual aid agreement with the City of Melbourne, providing for an effective date.
Thank
Or-
you. Oh, carry on.
I missed- Ordinance 2024-18. An ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating and allocating funds identified in Exhibit A, consisting of 3 pages and incorporated in its entirety herein. Recognizing that such appropriations must be made pursuant to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Bay, Chapter 35. Adopting, ratifying, confirming, and validating the allocations, providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are now on item number 1, public hearings. Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-12. An ordinance to the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Title 11, Business Regulations, Chapter 110, Business Taxes, Subchapter Business Taxes, Tax Receipts, by including a zoning compliance requirement prior to the issuance of a business tax receipt, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the City of Palm Bay Code of Ordinances, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open up the public hearing and Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is final reading for some minor changes to the BTR section of our ordinance, adding references to zoning compliance and deleting additional requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing, asking for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. I'm calling the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Item number 2. Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-13, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Title III, Administration, Chapter 39, Community and Economic Development, by revising provisions contained therein, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the City of Palm Bay Code of Ordinances, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is final reading on the ordinance that updates the responsibilities for the Community and Economic Development Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing, asking for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 4-0. Item number 3, Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-14, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V, Legislative, Chapter 52, Boards, Subchapter, Bayfront Community Redevelopment Agency, by repealing the subchapter in its entirety, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for deletion from the City of Palm Bay Code of Ordinances, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the elimination of the section of the ordinance that reflects the Bayfront Community Redevelopment Agency because the CRA is sunsetting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, closing the public hearing, asking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Felix. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Item number 4, Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, vacating and abandoning a portion of the rear 20-foot public utility and drainage easement located within Lot 10, Block 2396, Port Malabar Unit 45, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 22, page 12 of the Public Records of Brevard County, Florida, and legally described herein, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open up the public hearing, ask the applicant to present their case. Are you here? Yeah, there he is. Thank you. Michael?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Michael Lagrada, 191 Nesbitt Street, Northeast. Again, this is the second hearing, selling the swimming pool. My lot sits on a corner, which means the house is set back. I have the canal behind my house, so I'm requesting the 8-foot easement request of the 20-foot. Have the no objection letters from FPL, which took a year, and Spectrum and AT&T.
Thank you.
If you have any questions.
No questions from me, council. No questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing, asking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Deputy Mayor Felix, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. We are now on item 5. Congratulations, sir. We are now on item 5, Madam Smith.
Ordinance 2024-16, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Title 17, Land Development Code, Chapter 185, Zoning Code, Subchapter, District Regulations, by removing restrictions on permitted uses within the Bayfront Community Redevelopment District, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the City of Palm Bay Code of Ordinances, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Sherman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is some changes to the highway commercial zoning district that had exclusions to certain types of commercial businesses that would be able to operate east of the railroad in the Bayfront, and we're asking to remove those restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, sir, council? Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing and asking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by, was that you, Councilman Foster?
Yes.
Seconded by Councilman Foster. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We are now on item number 6. Ms. Smith.
Ordinance 2024-17, an ordinance of the City of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, repealing ordinance 2019-40, which granted an economic development ad valorem tax exemption to Midwest Dental Art Incorporated, 1490 Treeland Boulevard, Southeast, providing for an effective date.
I'm going to open up the public hearing as Ms. Sherman to present.
Thank you, Mayor. This is final reading for the removal of the ABT abatement program with Midwest Dental Arts. As we discussed at the last council meeting, staff is working with the owner to bring back an item 2, which we plan to bring back at the first meeting in May, to discuss the amount that is the amount of taxes that they did not have to pay, and what kind of repayment plan options could be considered by council if you so choose to do so.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Seeing none. Anyone wish to speak for or against this item? Master Chief, anyone else? Please raise your hand.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. This is just another case where a proposal or an ideal are being presented to the city as a good thing. But it's not, in this case, they failed to follow through on what their commitment was. There's reasons why things failed, and that's just the nature of the beast of evolution. But this is not the only case where this happens, where ideals and proposals are presented to the city of Palm Bay saying, oh, well, that sounds like a fantastic idea. We're going to say, oh yeah, let's go ahead and follow through with that. And I'll give case in points where we changed the zoning from several pieces of property, where we changed the zoning, which happens first thing with any project is being presented, on the anticipation that the follow-on project is going to happen. But what happens is the zoning has already occurred. That's the first thing that happens. We change the zoning from a comprehensive plan. We change the zoning, and then these ideals never follow through. So as a result, we put our foot in the door and somebody slammed it on us. So be cautious when we're making changes that have an impact without some kind of a guarantee that what's being proposed is going to be met. I'm talking about this one for the tax abatement, but the same ideals is what I'm addressing. So when you make a change, remember the change is already made. This was the case where they requested tax abatement, and it was a percentage based on proportionate for what they followed through on. And I understand the process. I'm not in favor of it, but I understand the process because it was good for economic development. But there's other individuals that don't qualify, and they have to struggle to pay their taxes. But yet the individual says, well, I'm going to be doing good for the city. That's saying that nobody else is doing good for the city. They're having to struggle and pay their taxes. And they go into debt to do it. But these get tax abatements and so forth. But that being said, so when you modify for one, remember, if they fail to follow through, instead of just pay back what you didn't pay, there should be some kind of penalty to compensate for the process. That's the incentive to do what you said. Same thing should happen when we do land mass changes. We do the land mass change. You failed to do what you said you were going to do. Here's the penalty, right? Make people be responsible for what they tell you, because they can tell you all the lies they want here, and that's what you're taking at when they do these changes. There's nothing that guarantees it, and you're going on their word. Well, we've seen how popular a person's word is anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm closing the public hearing, asking for a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by
Second.
Councilman Johnson. I'll second that. Seconded by the mayor. Councilman Johnson?
I'm in favor of it, but Mr. Batten has a point.
Yeah.
He definitely has a point. Should we see what's going on over off of RJ Conlon? We have property that's still not being developed commercially. So if we can put parameters for accountability, I'm all for it. So I think this council's in this, the same page to give staff direction in all areas where we can put better parameters and better accountability.
Yeah.
So that's all, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I did second the motion, but it goes beyond being accountable, because I agree. If you say you're going to tell us something regarding this, maybe we could look at that. I'm not sure what can be done today, but in the future, maybe look at how we could set those parameters to hold them accountable. Part of that is also they're creating the jobs, right? But if they don't create the jobs, which is what ultimately our goal is here. Everyone has voiced creating jobs. What other recourse? Certainly they have to pay the tax back, but is a penalty warranted at that point? What is it legal for us to do that, right? Add interest to it. I don't know, but certainly can we look at that? I don't think it would be legal, but city attorney and you guys can work those things out, but it's duly noted. I've got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Mayor Medina. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. We are now on item 13 and consent. Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. I appreciate the fact of applying for grant. I also greatly appreciate the fact of 33 new firefighter positions. All of that makes sense. But what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the city's total budget as we stand right now. I'm looking at, which is police and fire and infrastructure, that's the three only guided things that we have to do within the city of Palm Bay. That's the only thing that we have to have: police, fire, and infrastructure. That's all we have to have now by our charter. Now, with that being said, I'm looking at this at 33 firefighters, and we're asking for a grant for this one. I'm also looking about next year. If we don't qualify for the grant, does our budget authorize us to have that expansion? Or does that mean, well, we have to have our firefighters and our police, and we've increased it by this much, which we need? Does that then mean that, well, now we're going to have to lay off other employees that we've just hired? And we've seen this happen before. In order to meet budget, we've had to lay off people. I'm just saying, don't say, oh, look, there's a grant out there and we're planning for this year. Let's plan for next year, because I don't see, as I'm looking at the budget, I didn't see where we had the expansion for 33 new firefighters in next year's budget if we don't get the grant. I'm only worried about, as you say, Mayor, downrange, but 300-yard shot, still doable. Thank you.
All right, sir. Madam Sherman?
Yes, sir. Good question. So this grant is a 3-year fully funding of the positions grant. It will fund the salaries and the benefits for those positions for the 3 years. So the strategy on this, and the reason we asked for this number of firefighters, is it is an aggressive approach. It's because we are working very hard to bring our public safety capacity up to a level that meets the needs of our city in a way that we are that we know is important. But the 3 years is important for us because that gives us 3 budget cycles to prepare the funding to cover these positions once, if we were to receive the grant, once the grant ends. Because unlike other grants where they provide funding for the positions and they kind of gradually stagger down the funding over the years, it's 3 years, 100%, and then we're responsible. So that is our strategic plan on that. And these positions, since I'm talking about it, are to fully staff an engine for the new fire station that we are working on for the Babcock St. John's Harris Parkway area, as well as to add 2 new squad vehicles and staff to Fire Station 3 and also the new Fire Station 7 that we're actively working on as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So move.
Second. Got a motion by Councilman Foster, seconded by Mayor Medina. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 4-0. We are now on new business. Item number 1, Ms. Leffler.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Staff would like to request council consensus to reschedule the first regular council meeting in July to Tuesday, July 2nd, due to the Independence Day holiday.
Are you guys good with that? Tuesday?
I'm good with that.
Everyone, you have thumbs up. So Tuesday, July 2nd, it will be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we are now on council reports, and I'll start with Councilman Foster.
Suzanne, City Manager, I talked to you during my briefing this week about the homeless HR that was passed by the Governor DeSantis. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Did you get a chance to talk to the city attorney about that?
I did not. I apologize. I didn't know you were bringing it up tonight, sir.
Oh, okay. Madam Attorney, are you familiar with that homeless bill that Governor DeSantis signed into law that affects the cities?
Yes, sir. Essentially, what, at least my interpretation of it, the courts have allowed cities, local governments, some abilities to regulate homelessness if they have, these shelters, if they have these other mechanisms. But oftentimes cities don't, or local governments don't have the money. So what they say is, well, we can't do anything because we can't just remove them and penalize them for being homeless. This bill says, in essence, well, you have some ability to do things. That what you can do, you need to get doing it. And we're going to essentially create a plan for you to move about in that lane in which the courts have already permitted you to do so. So yes, I'm familiar with it.
How would that law, the new law, affect Palm Bay? As far as, because my understanding that we have the police department will have to arrest these people if they're in the public, if they living out in the public area. Am I wrong about that?
Well, first we're going to have to, which is to make a plan, because we don't have any resources. So there is some requirement consistent with current law that we have a plan for where these people can go, at least temporarily, until we create a more permanent site. And then once we actually create the plan where they have some place to go, we can assist that they go there and then take action once they don't. But we first have to actually make sure that there is a site for them, which the law requires, which is consistent with what the case law requires. So once we have some place for them to go, then they're going to need to go there.
Okay. And when this law takes effect?
Is this
October?
It's the October one, isn't it?
In October?
Yes.
Okay.
October.
That's all I have there. I just wanted to bring that new law to the council to be aware of that we might have to take some action on homelessness in the city based on the law that the governor signed. That's all I have there.
Is that the squatters law that we're talking about? Or
It's House Bill 1365.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Councilman Foster. Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor. I'll be brief. The only thing I wanted to really speak on was intergovernmental relations. And what I mean by that is making sure we maintain a working relation at the federal, state, and county level, even when we don't need something. It's easy to just go out with your hand out, but we need to make sure we're having those conversations with state legislators in off season and also see what it is they need. You know, I know on a personal level, I'm gonna be more willing to go out of my way for somebody who I have a working relationship with rather than somebody who just knocks on my door when it, yep, you understand, sir. So I just want to make sure I know Public Works, Mr. Perez, I know you're working with the county, and I appreciate that, but I want to make sure we're covering all avenues because we're talking about Babcock widening, we're talking about Malabar widening, and when we get to the, you know, when it's time to get to that point to, you know, break ground or get things done, I want to make sure we have a good working relationship with all parties, or all stakeholders is a better term, all stakeholders, because the federal level has a stake in it as well. So I want to make sure that us as a council, when we have a good relationship, or, you know, staff, anybody, I want to make sure we keep it, you know, yearly. You know, I don't want to have like situations where Hill Road and, you know, Minton, we're trying to figure things out. There's a lot of back and forth on what potentially could have been mitigated prior. So it's nothing on staff now. So I want to make that clear. But, you know, just seeing how important communication and relationships are, let's make sure we move forward knowing that. So that way we can set ourselves up for success. So that's all, Mayor.
I appreciate that, Councilman Johnson. I'm in full agreement with you as always, build relationships with our elected officials and even moreover staffers as well. So, yes, sir. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Batten. You know, just certainly pull an item that had, you know, quite a bit of conversation with city administration regard item 13, which is a great item. I think it's good. I'm in full support of it. But the other aspect wanted to bring, you know, to my colleagues' attention and the public is that the importance, the critical. I know we had that conversation several times, but again, I wanted to emphasize on that tonight, the importance to ramp up all plans to you know, support plans for more fire station. Well, a question I ask city administration is that, you know, currently, based on our population, how many fire stations are we short of? The answer was 6. Just think about that, guys. You know, this is critical. This is, you know, beyond that. And something got to be done. It has to be done yesterday. We need to find a better plan, more of a robust plan to move this forward. We can't delay this any longer. A couple of weeks back, we had a call, totally unacceptable, 19 minutes response time, 18 to 19 minutes, if I'm correct. I know my colleague, you may have heard about it. It came to my attention. So we're talking about critical, that's life and death, you know, our decision as head of household or whatnot, if our house is on fire, we'll do anything we can, anything possible, humanly possible to put that fire out. If it means, you know, debt service, we may have to consider that. That's what we would do for a family, right? So I know there's plan and leadership is working on plans and considering even, you know, put something on the ballot coming up this year, recommendation for that. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. We need to really consider, maybe give staff direction. I know we got things in the works, you know, fire station 7, following 8. We may, the 5-year plan we may have to cut that down. So I just wanted to bring that to your all attention and the public as well. So this is important to us, to me, to staff. We should definitely make it a priority of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll echo that for a bit. I know that we've been working offline behind the scenes with management. That is a passion of mine. So I thank you for bringing that up, and there'll be some opportunities for further discussion regarding this. It's critical for our citizens to understand that It is life and death. It's not just the fire, but it's the individual that is ill. And like I said, I had an experience at one point to take part in saving a life. When the rubber meets the road during these life critical moments, it is invaluable for our residents to understand that there's a safety in us responding at the right time. So part of that discussion also, gentlemen, is bringing up, because we are under contract negotiations with both our public safety, uh, but we have to continue to understand what we're tasking our firefighters with, what we're tasking our law enforcement individuals with. Look, we just had uh, a, a devastating event that you alluded to earlier today, um, where there was a loss of life, the families that are affected by that, the mental health component to what individuals are going through within our city. The ones that are on the front lines are our first responders. Gentlemen, I want you to understand those negotiators, those law enforcement officials that responded to that, those first responders, they had to contend with their own mental health in this situation. So understanding that, we need to not only support them for everything that they do, but understand that it takes a role and a toll on their lives and their families' lives. And we need to understand that mental health is a critical component of that. And I speak about mental health. I think the chief is spot on with that initiative, and I give him kudos for that. I experienced that with our brothers and sisters that have served our military. So that's, I just segue onto you. My report's more like I wanted to congratulate each and every one that came through for the mayor's ball. Outstanding time. We had a great time, but it was for Serene Harbor and a spectacular cause of helping women and children and survivors of domestic violence. So we will roll out once the bills are paid what the amount was, but I know it's going to be a substantial check, and I'm really glad that the community and the businesses came forward and partnered with us. Then I wanted to touch a little bit on our multicultural festival. It was a great event, spectacular event, and I give the city kudos to that. You know, the day before Easter, Eastwind Pentecostal Church partnered with the city. What an absolutely spectacular event. It was called the Easter Extravaganza. They had two choppers, two helicopters flying over the field, just this, deploying Easter eggs. So many people. I don't know what the count was. They're speculating 5,000, but I can tell you that it appeared to be more individuals than 5,000. Want to give again kudos to our first responders. The traffic, Malabar Road was backed up. I'm sure you were part of that. For those citizens that go to Fred Poppy, you can also come from the west side, go around through St. John's. That was a little more convenient for me, but it was just a spectacular event. The lives that were touched. When you talk about quote partnerships, if you were there and saw the thousands of kids smiling, and then when they were deployed to get the eggs, what a spectacular visual of community coming together, and parents that were like, this is great. So I want to commend each and everyone on this dais for allowing partnerships like that foster community and just celebrating Easter and families having a place to go to. So that'll conclude my reports, and I'll move on to Madam Sherman.
Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Madam Smith?
No, sir.
So now we're on public comments. Any speaker cards? Anyone wish to speak? I've got Sailor Tice and Master Chief. You outrank him, sir. Aye, sir.
Good evening, Robert Size, 1796 Winbrook Drive. I have a couple minor things and an announcement. Where are we on the ordinance to have the ponds on the former majors treated? Because we talked about hurricanes. I think we were going to do that, modify that ordinance in late 2023. And I'm just curious where we are now, especially when you're talking about.
Speaking to the mic,
I beg your
Mr.
pardon.
Seiss,
Where are we
where are
at?
we on this
The
ponds?
ordinance to have areas or facilities like the former majors having to treat the ponds that they have out to get the lily pads and allow water flow, number one. Number two, is there any update, current update that we can find out on the new water treatment plant? I'm hearing now end of 24, now I'm hearing it's going into 25, and we got all of these portable portable pumps at the lift stations. Thank God for people like Derek Aker, I appreciate that. Jupiter right outside the library here. Maybe we have some news on that, the paving. And, you know, I was pushing to some of these, I've been a big supporter in my previous career of MWBE or women minority owned businesses that are up. And to me, there shouldn't be, I don't want to see a competition. There should be some conversation with the city that people, a lot of people will watch the city meeting. I'm hoping that just acknowledge that, you know, you have a restaurant here, for instance, a Twisted Biscuit. They're also looking to open up another location in Palm Bay. How do we recognize that? And I'm not talking about the economic, business economic, whatever we call that. Thank you. But you know, let's go ahead and acknowledge them. Yesterday,
Well, you could do that too. Right now in public comments, you could say, "I've witnessed." What diner were you just?
It's called Twisted Biscuit.
The
It's
Twisted
on,
Biscuit.
It's on Babcock, just short of Palm Bay Road.
This is a great opportunity for you to talk them up, sir, and say, "Hey,
thank you for
I went
putting
there
that
and
on me, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
what did you like the menu? What was on
It
the
was
menu?
good. I mean, it was good.
What'd you
Potatoes were
have?
great. I mean, this guy, he starts making potatoes up when he sees me pulling up. So
Where are they
I
located?
had scrambled eggs. I had home fries. I mean, they make it right. You get everything you need, and you just wasted my
behind
like,
No, I want to. I yield to your time. Compensate is 30 seconds. There.
Hey,
I just
make it 45, will you?
Carry on, sir.
You know, real quick, yesterday at the zoning meeting, there was an outfit in New Jersey, and I'm a Jersey boy myself, but what they wanted to do is put 428 rent-controlled homes on Malabar Road, south of St. John's. And basically, you know, what they were talking about is we know that, you know, Malabar Road needs to be expanded, and you're going to, you know, we'd be able to, you know, we're looking forward to making that right. This was a disaster. Now, thank God the zoning board voted unanimously to turn that down, but we got to look for people like this and that just want to, you know, dump and run in this particular issue. Now, you grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in Jersey City. My sister was in a rent control department. In 30 years, she got mugged 3 times. Okay. With the drugs that are out today, we got to be extremely careful. This is that mindset from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area. We're just going to have, I understand we need affordable housing. When you get into the rent control stuff, it's tough, and it's just drug infested too. So keep an eye on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Master Chief.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. I've been coming to the city a long time, and I've watched directors within multiple departments come and go. We go through directors in the city of Palm Bay faster than I go through toilet paper. It's, you know, I understand why it happens, and I understand that. It's just such a shame to see it happen, because those are the people that are making the big decisions within the city. And Chris Little and I weren't always on the same side, and I seemed like I always picked on him, but that's just me watching the dollar within the city. But I'm sorry to see Chris go, because he had a massive endeavor ahead of him if he would have still been here, because this thing that's coming down the pike with the septic and the conversion for the cities, it's going to be multi-million-dollar dilemma. And if he was bailing out because of that, I don't blame him. I would bail too if that's what I was facing. The second item was we're talking about the growth within the fire department, the police department, which is based upon the population of Palm Bay. That's what determines how much you're supposed to have. Well, let's see, it's easy to say, come on in, folks. We appreciate it. Give me your tax dollar. But it's the city's responsibility to meet the commitment to coincide with making it a safe city. And that's what our charter is supposed to do. Well, there's a solution to that. The police department and the fire department is based upon the population of the city. If your police department and your fire department can't maintain within what your population is, then maybe you should hold off on the growth of the city by population. It's a double-edged sword. You can't have one without the other, but you have the control of the growth within the city. You have that. So I'm just saying, you could slow it. You could meet that mandate strictly by limiting the growth within the city of Palm Bay. You would meet your objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Butch?
Butch Oran, 219 Trenton Avenue. I think that's called a switch box. That what I was talking about. There's one up on Jupiter that's being held up by 2x4s. It's just east of Emerson on Jupiter. There's a church there on the corner. I think it's called a switch box is what that is. And the other thing is, you guys keep talking about fires and all that. How many of you remember the Mother's Day fires?
Yeah.
How quick that got out of control. And now we've got houses at the stream end, south end of Babcock. The other day, I seen fire trucks trying to get up Babcock during the rush hour. Cars have nowhere to go. So how's the fire truck get around? They have to proceed in front of the fire truck or run off in a ditch. So that's all I got. Still on with South Carolina to win, though. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, sir. Yeah, those fires, that was a mixture of dryness, dry season, and the wind. It just went out of control. Anyone else wish to speak for or against anything, or just to speak? Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned.